Good evening, everyone. Whoops, let me get out of my audio. Hello, can you sign in?
Please sign in. I'll catch people.
Good evening. My name is Janine Kiley. I'm the chair of CB2's Traffic and Transportation Committee. Welcome to our meeting tonight. We are here to discuss two agenda items. The main one is the Canal Street redesign. And we have Kate Shear from Department of Transportation to answer and address our questions. And then we're going to talk about topics for next year. And just so everyone, I'm going to go around and have introduce all the committee members. And just so people know, when we go through questions, first the committee and board members ask questions, and then the public. So we have a number of members of public in the room, and we also have 18 attendees online.
Sorry to interrupt you. This is Kate. We have quite a few DOT folks online as well. If you could promote them. I sent you their names earlier, but I can tell you now.
Yeah, if you could just, if you're from the DOT, raise your hand. That's probably the easiest way, and then we'll promote you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I've already introduced myself. We'll go around the table.
I'm Dan Miller. I'm a public member of Community Board 2 and Traffic and Transportation Committee.
Ken Westman, community board member. Anthony Wall, member.
Ida Rosa, chair of the board and committee member for the evening.
Yes.
Committee member Amy Brana. Shirley.
And online we have Shirley, you're muted. Just turn off your microphone. Shirley, you're muted. We have Shirley Secunda from CB2 Traffic and Transportation. Our chair, Emeritus, is online. Shirley, next time just unmute yourself when it's time to talk. And we have a whole bunch of people from Department of Transportation. Kate, you had shared your presentation with us. If I could just have a show of hands in the room, and if you're on Zoom and you're an attendee, raise your hand. Who attended the presentation last week? Okay. And I know we had one person who did not attend the online. Do we? Record. And in the room, we have who did not attend the presentation. Just okay. We have one person in the room who didn't attend. So Kate, I know we have about 18 people. We have 14 attendees. Many of them I think did attend last week. Some did not. So if you could, we have so many questions and comments, and I'd like to make sure we get the valuable time of your whole team today. So maybe if you could introduce your team and sort of share like a highlight of what has changed from last week. And then when we have specific questions, go to the slides, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because you can come back again after we do a resolution, correct?
Yes, we're planning to come back to all of the board in February or March, depending on how long it takes for us to revise the presentation based on comments.
Okay.
So thank you for that overview, Janine. My name is Kate Scherer. I'm the Borough Planner in the Manhattan Borough Commissioner's Office for Lower Manhattan, and I'm going to pass it over to our new Borough Commissioner, Danielle Zuckerman.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. It's nice to be with you. I'm Danielle Zuckerman, Manhattan Borough Commissioner. And I think, as Kate said, this is the same presentation that many of you saw last week. I think we always had this meeting built into our outreach. But if there's any additional feedback, we're going to be taking that and using it to revise the proposal, and happy to spend some more time going into detail about some of the elements if folks are more familiar with the proposals. But I'll pass it to David.
Hi, good evening. David Breen, Director of Strategic Initiatives in the Borough Commissioner's Office. I'll pass it to Jessica.
Hi, I am Jessica Kronstein. I'm the Deputy Director of Project Development and Delivery for the Public Realm. And my colleague Amy will be leading, well, I guess we're not actually presenting, but she can pull up the deck.
Okay, great.
Yeah, hi folks, I'm Amy Haddon Chapman. I'm a project manager on the Canal Street redesign project.
And you were the one who presented last week.
Correct, yes.
Welcome back. So maybe you could, you have the full presentation. Maybe just take us through the overview slide and the 5 slides with the different sections of it, I think would be helpful.
Sure.
And then we can, as needed, we can pull up whatever slides are relevant to whatever questions and comments people have.
Sure.
We need to make her co-host so she can share the screen.
I think I can share.
Okay, awesome. Fantastic.
Are folks seeing this?
Yeah, there we go.
All right. The QR code, in case anyone hasn't completed the survey yet. As I went through on the 24th last week, the on-street outreach, including Grand Street outreach. Preston, are you on the call?
Preston Johnson,
Yeah.
he's on. We can promote him. Oh, maybe he's been promoted.
Yeah, sorry,
I
Preston.
promoted.
Just flagging that our colleague from Cycling and Micromobility is also joining us tonight, and here to answer any specific questions about the Grand Street bike lane and other parts of the cycle infrastructure. But I will keep. Sorry, this is. Not sure it's a little bit, but hopefully we can keep going. You asked me to pull up.
Yeah, why don't we
the
start
project
here?
slide.
Yeah, that's helpful. And can you make it a little bit bigger?
Yeah, would you like me to briefly walk?
Just put it in presenter view. But that's good. Just why don't you just take us through the 5 parts?
Yeah, so as previously mentioned, this is a very large project, encompasses a lot of Lower Manhattan. Our aim with the project is really to rethink Canal Street from the West Side Highway right down to Bowery. Given it has such a large scope, we're thinking about it primarily in 2 compartments, Canal Street West and Canal Street East, with Broadway being the divider. We also really want to think holistically about the bike connections. As previously mentioned, it's not possible to, in our proposal, to fit a safe bike connection along the whole of Canal Street. So we are proposing to have that bike connection beginning on the west side at Watt Street, going on to Canal Street for 2.5 blocks, and then veering up to Grand Street via Varick or 6th Ave. I also want to flag that we are thinking holistically about Church Street. We know that Church Street and traffic circulation feeds into what we decide about Canal Street. So that project is on a different timeline, but we're thinking about it as we develop these plans. Similarly with Bowery bike connection, and then also we have a street improvement project planned for Canal Lower East Side, possibly rolling out in 2026, but again that's slightly different typology and it has a different project team, but we're also thinking about it as part of this project. I'll just touch on the project timeline at the bottom here. We're obviously going through our stakeholder engagement with you all. We began that in the summer. We've done 6 public events, including last week's CB forum, and we're speaking with you all. We will return in early 2026 with a proposal that incorporates all the feedback we have got so far, and including the feedback we get from you all this evening. And then we're looking to begin project implementation in 2026 it's possible, given resources and the extent of this project, it could take a couple of implementation seasons. So it's possible it will include implementation in 2027. Then I can go through the individual segments. Is that best, or does anyone have any questions about the overview plan?
No, do we want to go through the section? You know what, let's just jump in. I would like to propose that we go through this by functional change, because you had 5 project goals: the pedestrian, the crossings, the intersections, the vehicles, and the bikes. And maybe we could just go through that in aggregate, because I do think we have a lot of people here who have specific questions on each one of those topics. Does that sound okay to this group? Okay. And then as needed, you can pull it up. Because there's 5 project goals. I mean, actually, you can just take us through the 5 project goals. That would be great.
Yeah, so the first project goal here: relieve pedestrian crowding and improve sidewalk accessibility. We know that Canal Street is a key artery for vehicles, but also for pedestrians in Manhattan. We know we have visitors from throughout the neighborhood who live in the neighborhood, but also from from New York City, folks coming in to shop, to visit family, friends. We also know that folks come from around the world to visit this part of New York City. We also know there's a whole lot of key transit infrastructure along the corridor. We have many subway lines and folks connecting between those lines. So there's just a huge amount of pedestrians using Canal Street, especially on the eastern portion. And one of our key goals for this project is to improve the experience for those pedestrians. We also know that Canal Street is a very dangerous corridor. It has very long crossing distances. And the second goal, enhancing crossing safety and comfort, really comes to the fore. Last week on the 24th, I went through the safety data we have from the last 5 years, but we know that safety has been an ongoing concern of the community for over a decade, and this project really seeks to address both the safety and comfort of users along Canal Street. Part of the approach to improving safety and comfort is to simplify complex intersections for all users. We know that there's many intersections along the corridor where it's not clear where vehicles should be. There's not safe connections for cyclists who are using Canal Street because they don't have any better option. And we know that pedestrians and vehicles often interact in very dangerous and complex ways. So simplifying those intersections, and I can go through the key ones as we go into the project sheets.
Fantastic.
And then, vehicle space, public space. We know there's some opportunity for greening and better public space. And as mentioned before, we know there's the need for bicycle connections.
Okay, so I think what we'll do is we'll go through each of these goals and have the committee talk, and then hear from the public, and then go to the next goal and so forth. And just in terms, the committee has this was the sheet I sent around. I just want to make sure I understand it. The pedestrian improvements, at least highlighted on this, is extending the sidewalk on Canal Street to relieve pedestrian crowding and reduce crossing distances. And that is only for Broadway to Baxter and Bowery to Baxter. Is that correct?
The super sidewalks?
Yes.
Well, that's, from Broadway down to Elizabeth Street.
Okay, so yes.
Those aren't the only pedestrian improvements. I think if you look further west, we're both simplifying intersections, but shortening those crossings.
Yeah, that's, that's the second one. So that's, sorry. I'm trying to like break them out based on your comments. Cause the crossings were like the curb extensions and things. That was
Got it.
called the pink one. So,
Okay.
but in terms of, I guess it's sort of the pale orange, yellowish orange. It was just the sidewalks there. And then I just want to like kind of divide it by objectives so we can like not mix and match, if that's okay. So
Yeah, I mean, just like the presentation is structured geographically, so there will be a lot of back and forth if we're going through by goal, but whatever's most helpful to the board.
I think it would be helpful to understand by treatment because we did focus on geography and I think that some of the treatment got lost in that. So if that's okay with you guys. So I just want to open it up to the committee. Do we have any questions about extending the sidewalk? Shirley, and please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Okay, I'm unmuted. And hi there, everybody. And welcome, Danielle. Very happy to have a new borough commissioner. We kept hearing the same thing again and again. And frankly, we've been hearing it for years and years. And that is the prevalence of the sidewalk vendors and how they take up the street. I won't go into the other aspects, some of which may be criminal, but the major thing we heard when your last presentation, we heard an awful lot of people saying the only reason that there's such crowding on the sidewalk is because of this tremendous presence of vendors, most illegal, and also then the tourists who come to frequent the vendors' products. So I think the first thing that I wondered about, and this has been going on forever, I mean, this is something that has come again and again to the community board, so that since it is such an ancient issue, I guess I wondered, I presume other people did too, just how much you spoke with the agencies that take care of the other aspects of this. Not agencies, even DOT has a great deal to do with licensing vendors, of course, and NYPD with enforcement, and wondered how much you interfaced, and did that lead to the widen sidewalk idea? Is there a connection? I'm not sure there is. That's why I'm asking.
Amy, do you want me to start?
Sure.
Yeah, and thank you for that. We've definitely heard a lot about the vendor concerns, and certainly they exacerbate some issues on the sidewalk. DOT actually doesn't license the vendors operating in these locations. I think many of them are actually unlicensed. We have engaged the police department. We know that the 1st and the 5th precinct work together to address the issues when they, resource dependent, and they do a mix of proactive and responsive deployment. But we know that the community is seeking a more aggressive level of enforcement here, and I think we've articulated that. It would certainly help for you guys to articulate that. And I think, while again the vendor issue exacerbates some of the constraints on the sidewalk, we also believe it's too narrow for the pedestrian flow that it contains. So I think even in the absence of vendors, we would have an interest in widening the sidewalks here to manage the flow of pedestrians. But Amy, if you or Jessica, if you wanted to chime in, please.
Yeah, I will just reiterate Danielle's point. Canal Street is designated as a global corridor on our NYC pedestrian mobility plan. And global corridors are ideally supposed to have, these are guidance numbers, but 25 foot plus sidewalks and 15-foot clear path. That is an ideal, and that designation comes about through a variety of factors I went through before. Adjacency to subway ridership, the number of storefronts along a corridor. So I think a member of the public eloquently said last week that we need a yes and approach. I think we acknowledge that there are issues with the vendors, but as a baseline, the sidewalks are too narrow, and we need to approach both of those issues.
And I just have one other question with that. I don't think that you're putting in permanent widenings yet, right? You're doing
This is a this is a
bollards
street,
or whatever.
yeah, a street improvement project, a SIP. So we're using our temporary materials. We are proposing some concrete along the corridor, but these super sidewalks we're proposing to put them in using paint, flexible delineators, and then we're still determining the edge objects. The image you can see on screen here has planters and granite blocks. We're still determining what would be best for the super sidewalks here. I will say that we are thinking about Canal Street and working with our colleagues to see if going forward there would be potential to build these out capitally, but that is still a very open question, and it has a much longer time frame. So this proposal is using these semi-temporary materials.
I have a couple questions on what's the proposed width of the super sidewalks? Is it 25 feet when they're built out?
The super sidewalks themselves vary because the
What's
corridor.
proposed for Canal Street?
So the painted area would be approximately 10 to 11 feet. It varies a bit block to block.
Yeah, okay. And then I mean, we've just experienced it right on West 3rd Street. We have some painted extensions and they basically become parking, or NYU uses them for parking their NYU security vehicles. So they're actually not open. So how do we make, I mean, will there be the plastic bollards? Will there be concrete bollards to protect pedestrians who choose to walk in those spaces? I don't really.
Yeah. We're aware that there will be a lot of pressure on these spaces from vehicles, and some of our edge objects are more successful than others in keeping out vehicles. We know, for example, that some trucks will just move the smaller planters. So we are looking at edge objects that would really be very robust in keeping vehicles out of them. Jessica, I don't know if you want to add.
I was just going to add to that. I think, we know about 3rd Street, and I would say giving those drivers the benefit of the doubt, we also are looking at moving all of the curb regs out to the edge rather than keeping them on the sidewalk. So trying to eliminate as best we can any confusion.
I think it'd be helpful for your presentation in January or whenever it is to include these kind of details in terms of how that would work in terms of the extended sidewalk.
What is the current width?
And what's the current width of the sidewalk? I know it varies by block.
I would say roughly 15 feet. It does vary substantially from block to block.
Got it. Yeah, we walked it.
Just to follow up on your point.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do think, I mean, first of all, I applaud the fact that you're doing this because someone that crosses Canal every day, I get it. I also see Canal as not one street, it's like really three, the way you've broken it up. I'm not sure why you used Watts, and I think it would be because the south side of Canal is not a heavily trafficked block, especially not because between West Street and at least Barrack, and sometimes not even between Barrack and 6th. So I think what's hard for me to wrap my head around as someone who cycles east on Canal and never has an issue even without a bike lane is to see the thinking behind Watts and seeing actually pictures and maybe scope for the next meeting because you don't have it here. and I understand how it gets crazy from everything east of 6th Avenue to Baxter. It's just a very different area, and there's a lot of stores there where there are actually no stores west of 6th. So it's something where it's almost like a no man's land on the south side of the street. Whereas there's more traffic on the north going into the Holland Tunnel. But once again, by looking at this without seeing the buildings, I just can't wrap my head around why we're not doing a bike lane 1 block north on Canal South versus going, which is just counterintuitive to Watts. Because there's nothing happening on Canal North.
We
But it goes back to your point of visualizing things, because just seeing a schematic like this is difficult for everyone to place themselves in there. If you actually see a picture of it with people on the sidewalks, like especially where all the stores are, if you saw the image, then you'd understand why you need a wider sidewalk there and why you have a lot more space in this area right here.
Yeah.
Sure, I think that's good feedback for when we come back to you all early next year. Just to the bike lane point in this area, you know, we did an extensive traffic model that, you know, this project is very data driven, and we determined we did need those 3 travel lanes here on Canal Street, feeding into the tunnel, in effect, that traffic, and thus there just wasn't space to accommodate a 2-way protected bike lane there. And so Watts was a safer option. Watts is wide enough. It's not cobble, and we think it should provide the access. There's an existing crossing along 9A.
Do we have any other questions from the committee? Anthony?
I don't know if it's a question or a comment.
Comment, either way.
I think if we can go back to the Canal East portion, what we should concentrate is like section by section. There's certain people in this audience, in the public right here, who are mainly just here concerned about Canal East and also online. So maybe just to cut to the chase, so some of them don't waste their time, just to iterate some of their concerns. So the main concern is they really don't think there should be super sidewalks at the risk of losing parking spaces. Sort of that's the main thing that they talked about at their comment period at the last meeting. I myself, who live in the neighborhood, don't think there should be super sidewalks, and also perhaps a reevaluation of sort of the parking regulations along Broadway to the Bowery, which is sort of like Chinatown proper. We're breaking it up. Reevaluate the parking regulations there. If you have to take some away and, do some magic for some, deliveries and stuff like that, you can do that. But their main concern basically is that the smaller streets on the sides that you want to move deliveries to is already kind of packed. So I sort of agree with that. Now, if you don't widen the sidewalk, you still need safety improvements. So my suggestion for at least Chinatown proper is each of the corners have corner curb extensions and also pedestrian islands down the center. You have the painted yellow lines in the middle of Canal Street right now. Those could actually be islands. You do have one island between Elizabeth and the Bowery right now. So you can actually build out the rest of the island to at least Mulberry Street. And then just so people know, this particular committee is just community board too. So you have any concerns about south of Canal, that's all CB1, CB3. Bring those concerns to those meetings. And we can only deal with north of Canal right now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to express all of your concerns so then some of you don't have to spend 15 minutes, et cetera, reiterating the same points. But basically, super sidewalks, I think, is actually a better idea from Broadway all the way to Church. Because on those particular blocks, it's actually more narrow because you have those buildings that have little staircases that come out, and then you only have a sliver of a path to pass through. So if you want to do super sidewalks and to make traffic 2 lanes, you could shift it down to over there. So
Okay,
I think that's,
To 6th, right?
Yes.
There's
Yeah,
no
to-
search.
yeah.
so Shirley, if you could ask a quick question, and then we're gonna go to the public in the room and then the public online, unless there's other. Did you?
No, there's a fly.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on that long-term kind of temporary extension that you're talking about. And I'm just wondering if you have a plan to be testing this. In other words, how often will you be evaluating how it's working if you do it? Because that would be the time to do it before you put the concrete in, right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, we do evaluate all our street improvement projects. We go back, we look at if folks are using them, how many folks are using them, what times of day, year people are using them. We can also do a traffic, redo our traffic analysis to see if our projected level of service for vehicles is holding true. So that is an evaluation is a normal part of our process. We also rely on the community, folks who are using the street improvements every day to provide feedback. So yeah, I don't know. Jessica, do you have other things to add?
I mean, I would just add, I think, agree with everything you said. We also like to give things like a little bit of time to sort of normalize. So we wouldn't do that analysis like the week after we put things in when everything's sort of brand new.
Would it be 6 months later, a year later? I mean, just big broadly.
I mean, I think ideally a year, but at least 6 months.
Okay.
I think broadly evaluation is ongoing. If there are issues that need to be addressed, immediately after implementation where we see something is, actively unhelpful or not working, we could potentially address that sooner. But I think with traffic patterns, typically it takes a while for them to settle, and any analysis is just better when you have more time, more passage of time.
Thank you. Anthony?
Just one more comment about the sidewalks. There's talk about illegal vending and also, but let's keep in mind there's also the legal ones with the storefronts. A lot of our South Asian neighbors who have these gift shops are actually placing out items all the way to the curb. And that's what's causing some of this congestion too. So just keep that in mind. It would be helpful if DOT can contact Consumer Protection and get them to ticket these people or FDNY, for these obstructions and stuff. So that would help alleviate things.
Okay, so we're gonna go, if you are in the room and want to comment on this plan, I'm gonna ask that you take turns sitting in this chair because the microphone is at the table and we want everyone to be able to hear you. So if you're, maybe we'll start with the folks who from the east side from Chinatown are here. You were the first one who arrived, so I'll let you go first. She was here before I arrived. She wasn't sure she was in the right room since it was empty. So come on in, sit down, and say your name and what your comments are. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Eleanor Wong from the Chinatown Core Block Association. I realized that the DOT's proposal is to narrow the Canal Street and to remove the commercial parking on Canal Street. I just want dear members, board members, and also the ones in this room, I want you to imagine yourself and put yourself in the position of all those business owners, like the bakery, the campman, grocery store, the coffee shop, the jewelry store, the medical office, many of the medical office, there's several banks on both sides. If you are the owners and you have no parking on Canal Street, how would you deliver your goods or have the goods delivered to you? Just like the campman grocery manager, how is he going to carry a big pig from the other side to his, for barbecue, whatever? And the banks need bring armored trucks to deliver shipment to the bank, and also another truck to help them track the customers' confidential documents right in front of the bank. That's the I mounted, okay? So, and also the medical office. How are those clients, especially a lot of senior or sick or disabled people in the wheelchair, how are they going to be dropped off by the car service or whatever? So this is very inconvenient and not fair for the Chinatown business, which we already have been suffering from congestion pricing, COVID, and
9/11.
closing of Park Road.
9/11.
9/11, yeah, I'm glad you bring it up. So by not considering all our condition in the Chinatown like this is not very fair. And also the widening of sidewalk, I think the DOT has to fix the crime before they fix the lane. Okay, I have these pictures of all the illegal vendors that you can keep one, okay? And so this is very important. If you widen more space, then you will encourage more of these people bringing in more of their inventory, right? So, and also the public plaza is right next by closing Walker Street. Walker Street is very important.
That is south of Canal Street, so we won't address
Yeah,
that.
right. And because it's near the Chong Park building, the senior home, and also they're going to build a mega jail by that side. Okay, so there'll be a lot of cars coming out, so they need Walker Street. And also, you don't want a public plaza there because next to that Walker Street is two seafood market. It's going to smell really bad if you want to sit there. So I don't think it's that practical. I know the DOT wants to help. However, I don't think the proposal is practical, and our community did have an alternative, like fix all those illegal vendors first and permanently. Okay, not just one day they are there and then next day come back. And actually, some of them are really, I heard, relate to organized crime in some area on Broadway that side. I walked by, I saw it, okay? And then, and also to have the parking available. It's impossible not to have parking for Canal Street for all these merchants, especially the medical office and the banks. How is the bank going to operate business?
Yeah.
They have to, DOT has to consult.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. And then
Wait, so is it parking or you want to make sure that you have a delivery area so that trucks and deliveries can be there? But is it important for people to park there or is it important for deliveries to access the stores?
They have to access the store.
Okay, so
If they want, the DOT said they can move to the side street, like Elizabeth Street or other streets.
but if there was just like 15-minute parking for trucks to come and go, would that work for you?
That I don't know, but it takes more than 15 minutes.
20-minute, 30-minute?
No, that's
No, that's, so you
impossible.
want permanent parking?
Yes.
okay. Let me ask, sorry, go ahead.
So you would say-
Open to parking.
So you would say that this plan is going to be detrimental to the businesses that are barely surviving in Chinatown
Yeah,
and Little Italy. This is not a good plan for business. If they want business to grow and be healthy, this plan would definitely make a negative impact on these businesses. Is that correct?
right, I understand that. And also for safety. Okay, they could have built an island at that part and have more crossing time, especially for the senior between the Canal Street on this side, the east or west, whatever. And currently, I was standing there, I observed, they give it 20. They should give it at least 25 on each side. Because Chinatown has a lot of seniors. So it's different. I sometimes I saw people walking with a walker or with a cane. I have to walk next to them.
Yeah.
I don't,
Can I respond briefly to the
I
comments?
just want to just to get clarity. I know you have bump outs. Are there, is part of this plan, additional crossing time?
No, but the crossing distance will be diminished by 20 feet approximately with this proposal because
Okay,
of the
and
super
then
sidewalks.
what is, I mean, Dan and I walked Canal Street early on a Sunday morning when it was relatively quiet. And you know, we walk it all the time. Have you looked at having some carve outs on each block for deliveries and rideshare drop offs for people who might need, you know, accessible rides or whatever? Like I know in Hudson River Park, there's carve outs on the West Side Highway for people to take taxis or something to the park.
Yeah, we are doing in-depth analysis of all the curb uses along Canal Street and on the spurs, on the side streets, and looking at the loading needs and also the vehicle drop-off needs. So not just business loading, but people loading. What I pulled up on screen is from our 2022 outreach, but it speaks to the fact that most folks coming to Canal Street are either walking or using public transit. Obviously, that's not everyone, and you know, older folks or those with mobility impairments may have different needs, but a majority of folks coming to Canal Street to shop or dine or you know, are coming via public transit or.
And I guess, and I just wanted, so this was a man on the street survey. This wasn't like a DOT where you have the counters there counting people.
Correct. It was an intercept survey. So our street ambassadors were stopping folks, asking how they got there.
Yeah, and I mean, I walk it all the time. The majority of the pedestrians, probably west of Broadway, are tourists. And as the further east you go, you have more locals and tourists, but it's mobbed with tourists. And they're there to shop at the ground level. But what Eleanor is talking about is that the business is further east. So I guess I'm wondering if you've done any specific outreach to those businesses.
We have, yeah. So we did a merchant survey where we visited all the businesses along the corridor. Again, this was in 2022, and we're looking to revisit this in case there has been turnover with those businesses. But we asked, the street ambassadors went into every ground floor business. We asked them what their loading needs were, if they had control over their loading times, etc. So 79 businesses responded out of
So they're
100.
basically saying, okay. So basically they do receive deliveries, but they don't have control over when that happens, but many get them in the morning. Okay. So, okay. And it's also, I was just following up, you know, got a little scoop from last night's Community Board 1 meeting that right now you're proposing deliveries go onto the side streets, which are very narrow, and there's outdoor dining there. So I'm just wondering, how does that, and on Elizabeth Street, it's just NYPD parking. So how do you provide delivery space versus small businesses benefiting from outdoor dining? I mean, how do you balance all of these things? Because something has to give.
Yeah, I mean, the outdoor dining is on Mulberry Street, north of Canal. That's one of, say, 8 spurs. So we've definitely taken that into account. We know that there is the precinct on Elizabeth Street, and they have their patrol vehicles parked along Elizabeth Street. But we know that there are other cars with placards that park along both Canal Street and the side streets, but it's not all of the parking. There's commercial loading. There's a vast array of quite complicated curb regs. One of the ideas with this project is really to streamline the curb regs and make sure they're working, and ideally that they're being enforced.
Okay, can you just take us through an overview of what you mean by streamlining the curb regulations? I'm sorry to get so granular, but we've had high-level meetings and now it's time to go to the
Sure. I mean, just for example, on Canal Street proper, you know, there's a rush hour curb reg lane, right? So I believe it's from 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. It's a travel lane. We know that that doesn't function all the time. If there's one car parked mid-block, then you have cars traveling down that lane for a little bit, then veering into traffic, then traveling back. Then we know in the middle of the day, it's 3-hour commercial loading generally. And then in the evening, it goes back to being a rush hour lane. And then overnight, it's residence parking. That varies block to block. There's also you know, parking for the precinct. There's you know, Mott Street and Elizabeth Street are similar widths, but one of those streets has parking on both sides. One of them has parking on one side. It's, you know, it's a real scramble of different regulations. And it's very hard for, you know, there's 4 parking signs on one post. And, you know, from one perspective, streamlining is just making it very clear what the curb regs are so people can follow them.
Got it. And what are you proposing for the curb regs?
It is, I mean, it varies different. It does vary. I'm just trying to think. It varies from block to block. And we are going to come back. When we come back in 2026, we will have a more detailed.
Okay, Anthony has a follow-up question on that.
Well, to answer your
Sorry, I do want to
answer your-
jump in and just say, I think the point of this is to get like broad feedback. We don't have a lot of that sort of granular detail because we're going to develop it with all of this feedback in mind, right? So I think as we look at specifically the commercial loading, we've heard loud and clear that like people are very concerned about commercial loading. So making sure that our curb regs accommodate those needs.
Great. Okay, Anthony?
Just to answer your question, according to this presentation, there's no regulations because they're taking away all the parking between Bowery to, you know, where all the super sidewalks are.
Got it.
So my comment, which is the expression of some of these folks in here and online, just to save them time once again, is yes, reevaluate the parking regulations. You can take half of them away if they're all out of whack, but make sure there's delivery and accessibility for, you know, medical offices, those ambulettes and stuff like that, and Uber shares and whatever. Half, you know, take out half of it or something if need be. But these people are concerned. You're going to hear from them.
I've heard a lot from folks that there's medical offices along Canal Street, and that folks are visiting them. Is there anyone in the room who could give me specific addresses, locations?
I'm going to let him talk now. You've given yours.
It may be more so on the CB3 side. A lot of these folks.
CB1. It
No,
depends.
CB1 depends, but there's medical offices also on the south side. So some of the distress that some of these folks are having is because this whole process is split between 3 community boards. So that's why you're seeing a repeat of a lot of people coming to all 3 community boards sort of mixing all together because Chinatown is split between 3. So there's a lot of frustration within this canal's portion. So just laying out there.
Okay. Dr. Chan, do you want to address this? You're online. Can we elevate Thomas Chan? I can do that. If you could just give a brief recap of the doctor's spaces. Dr. Chan, are you there?
Gentlemen also.
Okay, this, you know, I'm gonna let this.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dr. Thomas Chen. You know, I have practiced medicine on Canal Street for more than 32 years. You know, under the new DOT plan, all the parking space on Canal Street from Broadway all the way to Elizabeth Street will be removed, and only 2 active traffic lanes will remain in each direction on Canal Street, right? You know, on Canal Street, there's hundreds of restaurants, stores, and many banks in Chinatown and Little Italy, as well as few hundred medical offices and 2 large radiology centers along Canal Street. If all the parking spaces on Canal Street are removed, we are very concerned where the delivery trucks will unload and deliver their products. You know, there are too many trucks are delivering on Canal Street every single day. actually non-stop, almost every 15 minutes, you see many new truck coming in. So they say, you guys say, let the truck park on the side street. There are just not enough space on the side street. And also some trucks are just too big to go into the side street. Look in the morning, how many trucks are unloading on Canal Street? Actually, sometimes they don't have enough space. They have to double park to do it. Okay, for my patient, right? We have, where will the ambulance drop off and pick a patient who rely on wheelchair and walker? Actually, I just did a count today. You know, we have many patients coming in by ambulance and call service, and they rely on wheelchair and walkers. We serve patients not just in Chinatown. We serve patients from Brooklyn, from Flushing area. I just make a count today. We have more than 350 medical providers and 2 large radiology facilities and 3 labs along Canal Street. We have more than 350 doctors on Canal Street. It's not like 10, 20. You can do a count. Okay, if all these vehicles, they don't care, they just double park on one of the lane, then what happened? Canal Street only end up with one single working lane. Because remember, you say 2 lanes go that way, go east, 2 lanes go west. I bet you many of them, they just stop there and drop a patient like ambulance. Take 15 minutes to drop off one patient on wheelchair. And then some truck, they just gonna drop off their thing anyway, and then call service. So then it end up the Canal Street only end up with one single working lane. And then you know what happened? That creates severe congestion on the Canal Street.
Thank you, Dr. Chan. I think we've got, I hate to cut you off, but we have a lot of topics and we have a lot of people that want to talk. So if
okay, let me make just make a solution. Before we thinking about widening the sidewalk or taking away all the parking space, first we have to manage the vendor, and second, what thing we can do, cutting down the crossing time, just using what they call the curb extension on both crosswalk instead of taking away all the parking spaces on Canal Street. I mean, that help. And then Central Island will help. That will protect our pedestrian, make it safer to cross Canal Street, but not by taking out all the
thank you, Dr. Chan. I'm gonna cut you off there.
Okay, thank you. Because my patient will suffer because they're on wheelchair, they're on walker, they're walking along the Canal Street.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna have everyone if I could have a volunteer on our committee, we're just gonna time people. When you do have a chance to speak, we'll cap it at a minute, and if it gets in 2 minutes, and if it gets too long, we'll move it to a minute. I'm gonna have this gentleman speak. And if you could just hit your main points, and if it's already been covered, just say, I agree that X, Y, and Z should happen. Okay, so introduce yourself and your points.
Yeah, my name is Howard Huey. I'm from Chinatown Core. And a lot of the points that were mentioned, I do agree that I'm against the Chinatown redesign, narrowing the Canal Street from Broadway to Bowery. It would inhibit dropping off of deliveries and patients, as Dr. Chan has mentioned. Chinatown has had multiple shocks, 9/11, Asian, flu or COVID thing that decimated the businesses in Chinatown. We're finally recovering, and this is going to put us back again. One of the things I want to mention, if you don't address the vendor problems, super sidewalks become super vendor opportunities. That's all it becomes. You need to have a multi-agency solution. That means you just can't have DOT attack upon. You have to have DOT, NYPD, the DA's office, NYPD. You should have multi-agency tackle this together instead of saying catch for, saying, hey, that's your problem, not my problem. And everybody's doing that and nothing gets solved.
Including ICE.
Yeah.
ICE too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your brevity.
Did we get where Charles Wang, the exact cross street for these guys?
Yeah, does anyone have the exact cross street for the Charles B. Wang Health Center?
For the what?
Charles B. Wang.
I can look it up.
It's just east of Broadway, I think.
Yeah.
Lafayette and Cortlandt Alley.
Cortlandt Alley.
Okay.
But that's where their main building. They also have a pediatrics, which is located at the Walker Canal/Walker.
If you
Okay.
guys would be able to send us a list of these types of offices, we can, work to, as we evaluate what regulations are needed, it's useful to know where those locations are. So if you want to send over addresses or cross streets, that's helpful.
Yeah, well, we'll send this one, but the small offices we won't have, but the Charles B. Yang one is a huge complex.
But to reiterate, that's on CB1 side.
That is true.
CB1 side.
All of this is on CB.
Yeah, the south side of the street has the office buildings, but it's the same issue in terms of people getting there, whichever side they're coming from. Do we have any other, I know there's other hands raised. Does anyone else have anything else to add relating just to pedestrians?
I would like to.
Okay, come on, I'm gonna have her and then you, because she came, you were the first, if that's okay. And just introduce yourself and hit the main points. If it's already been said, you can just say, I agree with so-and-so.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Anna Goldstein. I'm a resident of Chinatown and I'm with the Chinatown Poor Block Association. I noticed that the super sidewalks are only for Elizabeth Street to Broadway. And I feel like this is punishing Chinatown. This is selectively doing it. They are not expanding the sidewalks anywhere else. And the reason why they're saying that we have crowded sidewalks is because of the illegal activity on it. And the DOT is changing the infrastructure due to the failure of the city to deal with the illegal activity. We need to keep the parking lanes. Again, I agree that we need it for the deliveries, handicap access, drop-off, and for our commerce, because customers need to pick up their goods as well when they buy things. And reducing, this is about reducing Canal Street to 2 lanes.
Okay, I'll just sit on it now quickly, yeah. Okay, that's okay.
I think it will affect emergency access. It will have a major impact on the crosstown traffic from Manhattan Bridge to Holland Tunnel and vice versa. And I think the survey responses are not reflective of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Love the brevity. And then come on up.
Maybe if we could add something regarding the super sidewalk treatment, I think not putting it further west also had to do with our traffic analysis of the volumes further west. I think we determined, and Amy, you could chime in, but I think we needed the extra travel lane on those parts of the corridor.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Kay Powell, and I've lived a block away from Canal Street for the last 50 years on Wooster and then on Grand Street. I don't know why the DOT is paying so much attention to these sidewalks and stuff, because we have Broome Street, we have Canal Street. They're going to the Holland Tunnel, they're going to the Manhattan Bridge, and nothing is being talked about controlling the traffic. And when I say controlling, I have been asking for years to have traffic officers at West Broadway and Broome Street. I mean, you can't cross that street, especially on a Friday night when everybody is leaving the city to go to their country homes. This is like, I don't know, cosmetics or something. And there's real issues downtown with just heavy traffic. And if you're going to pretty much close down Canal Street while all of this is going on, what are you going to do with the traffic? I mean, it's all going to go to Broome Street, and Grand Street I live on Grand now. It's just packed with cars and honking, and it's not the right environment for me. And so I think this is cosmetic. I really do. I don't see any point in it.
Thank you.
I just, to respond to the last 2 points and to jump up what Danielle was saying, we do see different numbers of pedestrians on the east side of Canal versus the west side. And we do also see, very different vehicle numbers with folks trying to make it to the tunnel. To the last speaker's point, this proposal was developed very closely in line with our traffic model, so ensuring that we wouldn't make congestion worse. That's why we've maintained 2 travel lanes, which it is in effect Canal Street functions say on the east side, it in effect functions today as 2 travel lanes because those rush hour lanes do not function as travel lanes. So we're keeping the current travel lanes to accommodate the traffic.
Okay.
While balancing the stated pedestrian and cycling needs.
I would just like,
Amy has a
Okay,
question
I'm
for you.
sorry.
So I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying, that, are you saying that you feel like as they're looking at the Canal Street design, they have to look more broadly and look at the
There's a community
implications?
that lives down there, yes.
But let's get real specific about
Yes,
the kinds of
yes.
things they're talking about, is traffic and bike lanes and things like that, that this can't be just Canal Street,
Yes,
that there are these overflow effects.
Absolutely.
So that you're requesting that they,
Look at it at a broader.
right, and are you specifically talking about Broome and Grand or any other streets?
Canal.
Canal, Broome, and Grand.
and Broome, yeah.
Okay,
I mean, those are the ones I'm very familiar with.
Yeah, that's what I was.
But I would also say that I respect your idea of getting more bikes on the street and stuff, but I don't think it can happen just by, putting more bike lanes and stuff. Traffic is a problem.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Do we have anyone else who wants to address the pedestrian issue? I see, on the pedestrian issue or something else? Come sit down and have you go don't read the whole page.
I'm timing you.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Introduce yourself.
So my name is Daniel Sutton, and
Can you talk loud?
A little bit louder.
I noticed that on both sides of Canal Street, on the north and south side, the sidewalks on the street are very uneven. So there's a lot of going up and going down, and stepping off the sidewalk is like falling off a cliff in some areas. It's very uncomfortable. And it also causes a lot of flooding when it rains because there's not enough drainage on the street. So it pools in various areas and it gets pretty deep actually. So it's hard to walk through those puddles. So
I know it's a little quiet, you guys, but we're talking about the uneven sidewalks, the flooding when it rains, how, just it makes it difficult for pedestrians. Have you guys taken a look at any of that? I know CSO isn't in your capacity, but.
We are aware of the uneven condition of Canal Street, including the pedestrian ramps. And we can work with our colleagues who are in charge of ped ramps to consider upgrades. I will say there's a lot of conflicting infrastructure along Canal Street, which does make it, difficult in some places.
Thank you. That's a different topic that hadn't come up yet for us. Do we have anyone else who has something else new to add? I see hands are raised. You guys, come on up. And then we'll go to people online. Okay. And say your name and your comment, please.
Hi, I'm Yosef. I was on Canal Street earlier this year when 2 people were unfortunately struck and killed. I know that was closer to the Manhattan Bridge, so maybe not particularly this section. And I think I agree with what Kay is saying in terms of it seems a little bit cosmetic, but truthfully, and I don't want to be too negative, but the neighborhood is gorgeous. Anybody who walks through, you're having a great time, and then the good times end at Canal Street, Canal Street, you get there and it's a highway coming through the neighborhood. And to me, it's as someone who lives here, the worst part of an otherwise great neighborhood, it's like a scar kind of coming through the neighborhood. And it genuinely makes me feel uncomfortable and scared. And especially after earlier this year when those 2 people were killed, we should be I don't know what to do, but closing the road off to I know for a lot of people, they feel enforcement is the way to go when people are speeding, but if you narrow the road, people can't speed. And I don't know, sorry.
Thank you. I have 2 questions relating to that. And since I'm the chair of the committee, I will allow myself to bounce around, even though I said we were trying to stay on these things. So since you did mention the Manhattan Bridge, and I know that there's some Jersey barriers and I forget what those plastic sticks are called. And I knew there's new signage, but one of those accidents was because of a drunk driver. And when we walked the corridor recently, even Sunday morning, the cars come off the bridge really quickly. What physical traffic calming measures are you going to be putting in place? Because you can have as many signs as you want, but a drunk driver is a drunk driver. So we need some things to physically force them to slow down or to protect people when things go awry. What physical changes are you going to be making at the Manhattan Bridge, outflow and inflow onto Canal Street?
I don't know, Danielle, you.
So as you mentioned, we made some quick improvements, including to markings and, as you mentioned, Jersey barriers. I think we're still looking at what else we can do. We know that CB3 passed a resolution with some suggestions, which we're evaluating, but I think it's a work in progress.
Okay.
Speed bumps.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think you're
How
gonna.
about speed bumps?
What?
Speed bumps.
Yes, okay, thank you. I think we all agree about that. Okay, do we have, I'm gonna move to a minute. Kathy, we're gonna go to the 3 people online. I'm only calling on you if you're talking about pedestrians or even the pedestrian experience crossings or intersections. If you're talking about bikes I know, but they just arrived, so these people have had their hands up for a while. So just be patient.
No, sure.
Okay, Kathy, I'm gonna do a minute now, okay?
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Kathy. I was in the meeting in November 24th. As I mentioned before, I'm in my friends, relative, and myself who live and work in the area for over 40 years, 40 years, okay? We strongly oppose this proposal. And also, as Ms. Amy Houghton mentioned that they do a survey in year 2022 for the ground floor merchant. And I know many friends, they have business over their jewelry store, Cameron Food, Thai Band Bakery. They never heard about that. They never heard about the survey. None of them aware of this survey. And the survey they did for the put in the corner, that's for outside visitor, that's not for local residents. As I mentioned before, when we deal with those the 2 victims was killed by the DUI driver. It's nothing to do with the pedestrian safety. And another thing is, in case of there's any emergency, like fire truck, there's a fire. If there's a traffic jam to the Holland Tunnel and New Jersey and Manhattan Beach, how can the fire truck arrive on time? Can Amy
Thank you.
guarantee? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Do you have another point? Otherwise, I'm gonna go to the DOT to answer those questions. Okay, so I guess the question is how was the survey done? Was everyone reached out to? And then in terms, I think I read somewhere else that you're continuing to do outreach to FDNY regarding emergency vehicles. Is there an update on that now, or will we get that in January?
FDNY update will come in January. We work with them as partners on an ongoing basis. In terms of the merchant survey, in 2022, there were 2 surveys. One was a merchant survey where our street ambassadors, as they were then, went into every business shown on the map previously. I can pull it up. There was an attempt to talk to every business along the corridor. Obviously, some businesses didn't want to answer. You can see that 109 businesses were visited and 79 responded. That the merchant survey had translators, so there was an opportunity for folks who didn't speak English to answer the survey. We currently have a live merchant survey because we know that things might have changed since 2022. We have dropped flyers off to every business on the ground floor along Canal Street, asking them to refresh us with their loading and vehicle needs.
Okay, do you have a link for that? Is there also a link for that? Is that one of the links on the front page?
We can follow up. It's a merchant specific link.
Okay, awesome.
It's a separate survey from the public survey.
Fantastic.
I will also say the intercept survey wasn't just for folks visiting, it was folks on the street were asked. So if someone who lived on Canal Street was intercepted by then they would have been asked just like a
Yeah, I think what we've just heard is, pretty much everyone crosses. If you're a local, you cross Canal Street and move to Grand or some other Walker as quickly as you can.
It's not necessarily true.
Well, no, it's not necessarily true, but I'm just saying anecdotally. Last week I was going north to south and intentionally walked from West Broadway all the way to Lafayette. I would not have done that unless I knew I would have moved. I intentionally did that because I wanted to feel how crowded it felt at peak hours, but normally I would have gone off. So I know it's not necessarily true. I'm just saying it's, many people on this committee have said that. So again, I haven't done the stats, but that's an intercept. It's not, I would love real stats. But
sure. I will just say that, we did 5 on-street outreach events this summer. Many of those were I was at all of them. A lot of those folks were tourists, but a lot of them were the folks in this room and other people who lived on Canal or lived on streets nearby and were happy to give us feedback. So we're especially interested in, specific feedback from folks who've lived in this neighborhood for a long time, but we are also aware that Canal is used by many people, and we're interested in the experience of anyone, even if they're commuting through the neighborhood, changing trains, etc. Their comments are valuable too.
Okay, I'm going to go to Kathy Chan. Sure. Wait. One question from Lucio.
Yeah, and you said that this survey was done in 2022. Is that correct?
There was a merchant survey done in 2022 and an on-street intercept survey done in 2022. Then there was the 5 outreach events we did this year, and there is a current merchant survey, as well as a merchant survey that was done along Grand Street recently, more focused on the bike upgrades there.
Regarding the merchants that you did outreach to, how many are still in business or what new businesses would you?
That's why we've relaunched the survey currently, because we want to know that question. We want that answer. Yeah.
Great. Okay, we're gonna go. I'm calling people. After a minute, I'm gonna have to mute you. We'll give you a 10-second warning because be ready to get to your point as quickly as possible. Okay, Kathy Chan.
Hi, you hear me, right?
Did you just speak? She already went. Okay, so SW Young.
All right, thank you. Xing Young here. I just wanted to talk about the surveys as well. Towards the end of last night's CB1 meeting, there was a really important discussion about the quality of the community outreach and more specifically, whether the information is truly reaching the business owners in Chinatown. Obviously, I feel like a lot more effort needs to be made to ensure that information is distributed, through the proper channels. Furthermore, from the chart that you just showed, your past surveys seem to be only on Canal Street. I think you guys absolutely need to go further into the core of Chinatown, not just Canal Street. I think at the end of the day, I don't believe anybody opposes safety improvements or being able to use sidewalks as intended, but the methods used to achieve the goals have to be practical. They have to be rooted in the operational realities of the community.
10 seconds.
Most importantly, has to be guided by authentic input from people who are actually.
Thank you. And thank you for your concise comment. Jean Chan.
Could I respond to that point quickly? I think that's a really good point. And I think, we're happy to talk about the methodology of this survey, but, this was a preliminary survey to inform a preliminary concept, but we are interested in getting more feedback and talking to more people. That's why we're here. And I think any specific feedback on ways to reach folks. I think there was a good point about, putting flyers not just on Canal, but on side streets. But any other business leaders who you can help get the word out to, I think we want to work with you to make sure that we are reaching the right people, and we want that feedback from you.
Who should local Chinatown business organizers reach out to?
Me.
Yeah.
48-year-old business.
But at the DOT, that's what I meant. Yeah. Who should be the point of, like, is there an info ad or?
They can reach out to our office. I mean, it would be great to circulate the survey and the plan that's up there, and we can get feedback from folks. If there are questions, it would be great if community leaders could help consolidate those and we could respond to them. I think we're looking
We'll
for.
follow up with you on that then. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go to Jeannie Chen.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Regarding the survey, I really believe there needs to be more door-to-door to alert the shopkeepers that this survey is going on. Also, regarding the person who asked for speed bumps on Canal Street, my mother used to live near a speed bump, and when trucks go over it, it's very loud outside your window. Regarding Chinatown itself, narrowing the Canal Street and then eliminating the southern access routes along Chinatown, and then on the west, we have the Mega Jail building and Columbus, and then on the east, their DOT is proposing Chatham Square reconfiguration to narrow the streets further. We're going to be completely landlocked in Chinatown, and that's going to affect the whole commerce in the area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to the people in the room now. If you're speaking, come up, sit here, introduce yourself, and then yeah.
Can I speak on any topic?
Yeah, 1 minute.
Wait, I was told 2 minutes. I came back. I was here, I came back.
Okay, we're down to 1 minute.
We're down to 1 minute, otherwise we'll be
I
here
was
till midnight.
here before.
It just get to the point. You'll be good. Minute is a long time if you're organized with your.
Are you gonna say go?
Go.
I live on Grand Street. I've spoken about this before. I think that Grand Street is a terrible location for a double bike lane. There's only one lane of traffic. I appreciate that everyone at the DOT has studied this, but I don't think that you have spent enough time on Grand Street in the summertime when the tourists are fully on the sidewalk, everybody walks in the street. There's one lane of traffic. It's dangerous. Everybody steps into the street to walk. The DOT is responsible for there being one lane of traffic as it is on Grand Street because of the bike lanes. This is going to make it worse. As a longtime resident, I remember Canal Street when it had 15 contiguous hardware stores. So I've been watching this neighborhood, and I love Canal Street as much as I love Grand Street. I wish I had another minute to talk about Canal Street.
No, we'll come back to another topic. Okay.
Come back here?
No, just.
And could you say your name aloud?
My name is Carol Friedman, and I'm a longtime resident. And I have one question for the DOT. With your outreach, you're talking about merchants. Are you also going to reach out to residents for your survey? That's a question.
The merchant survey is specifically to understand loading needs. We have the survey that we're asking for your feedback, residents' feedback, and users of the corridors' feedback.
Okay, and we will shoot that out again to the CB2 network, and we'll reach out and get it to Amy. Quick question.
Yeah, so the residents, are you going and contacting landlords, making sure they have it, they can post it on the bulletin boards or whatever? I mean, are you doing the same kind of outreach to landlords, so you're getting all residents' feedback?
I mean, we're not going to every single building in Lower Manhattan, no. I mean, Danielle, do you want to talk through what's usual?
On Canal Street?
It it would be helpful, you know, if you folks as community leaders could spread the word. If there are particular buildings, you know, we're happy to connect with them to give them information. I know there's been some door-to-door work done by the team, but you know, I think we're happy to spread the word to whoever is interested. And if you have suggestions for particular buildings we should visit, or you know, larger buildings that might have a kind of bulletin board or might have their own mailing list, I think that would be useful to us, so we could get information out to them.
Thank you. Can I say? Yeah. I think you should reach out to all the buildings because they all pay taxes. All the buildings. Not specific buildings, but all the buildings and the residents that live there and have to endure what's the plan that you would like to put forward.
Along Grand Street and Canal Street.
Okay.
All of the buildings.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to this gentleman. Say your name and.
Jeffrey Kwan, 3 properties on Canal Street, 1 business, 48 years, neighbors who are like 70 years. So as a business owner, eliminating all this parking, especially from Broadway to Elizabeth, is going to kill all the businesses. There's going to be, even just like people going for their medical appointments, they're going to stop, they're going to block everything. It's just ridiculous. There's no relief along any of the blocks for 6 whole blocks. How do you even fathom that for no parking at all? That's ridiculous. You're also creating more illegal activity. There's no, I even talked to First Precinct today. They said that you guys actually, we talked about collaboration last night at the CB1 meeting. And you guys, they said that you haven't been collaborative with them as far as like hearing what their viewpoint is. You're just creating more of this. We're designing around this.
Okay. I have one question. You said you're opposed to getting rid of the parking. Are you opposed to, do you want just all kinds of parking, or do you want delivery and drop off parking?
I kind of agree with the bump outs with some relief for people to be able to like come in and maybe stop for a few minutes, like not to completely eliminate it and create more of this. We're designing around this right now. We're just putting a Band-Aid on a Band-Aid.
Okay.
The collaboration has to happen with the DA, with the police department, and then who's going to take care of all this? Who's going to sweep all the stuff? They're going to leave all the garbage.
Yeah.
And then all of us are going to have to clean it up.
Yeah, I do have that. I was asking this question among our, I called the expert Shirley Secunda, but I do have a question. So if the sidewalk goes from 10 feet to 25 feet, is it still the building owner's responsibility as well to keep the sidewalk clean, shovel the snow and so forth?
The painted sidewalk extensions, they would be, we would work with a maintenance partner, so it wouldn't be the property owner's responsibility to sweep or clean. And any planters that we decided to put or any other beautification, that we would work with a maintenance partner to.
Who is the maintenance partner?
We haven't determined that yet.
Okay, awesome.
But we wouldn't put in these super sidewalks without a maintenance partner.
Got it. Okay. And so the maintenance partner, which is to be determined, is responsible. And if they eventually get fully paved with concrete, is that still the maintenance partner?
I believe that would be the property owner, but that would be, a capital plan, which would be long term.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. And then I know you guys had, before our big meeting, one of the emails said, do you know if the NYPD is coming? They're not going to come to a community meeting. What kind of conversations are you going to be having with the 1st and 5th precinct?
I think we're going to continue talking to them and getting their feedback, and making sure we understand kind of their approaches and their concerns.
Okay, I think it would be helpful to just hear some of that when you guys come back in January.
I think in addition, we typically work with PD when we implement any kind of new street geometry to get their support with enforcement and helping kind of ensure that people are, you know, following the new rules and understanding them. So we typically collaborate with them after we do like a big corridor project like this.
Yeah, okay. I know there's some hands raised, but I'm gonna sort of jump on before we get to vehicles. I want to specifically talk about crossings and intersections. The plan, crossings is the pink stuff on the plan. So basically, from West Street to Hudson Street, there'll be new marked crosswalks, painted curb extensions, a lot of curb extensions, and those are all from West Street to West Broadway. And then high visibility crosswalks from West Broadway to Broadway. So we'll get curb extensions and more crosswalks. And I just want to, some of the feedback we heard tonight is there's, I guess there's no curb extensions for the other part because you're doing the super sidewalks. I guess the couple questions that came up specifically from from the meeting last week and conversations and emails that we got were specifically about extending the center island beyond Elizabeth Street. And on the west side, when you're on Hudson and Canal Street, the cars that are driving west whip around the corner and turn north on Hudson Street. And there, I guess, how can we add a curb extension there as well?
Could you repeat that location?
I'm adding a curb extension at Hudson and Canal on the northeast corner where the cars whip around.
Can I add to that? That's where, so one side goes into the Holland Tunnel, and then it's the same light, which is delayed to go up Hudson. And what happens is drivers are panicked because they've been waiting because all the two right lanes go into the Holland Tunnel. So what Janine is saying, yes, she's absolutely right. They rush to go quickly across on the left-hand lane of Canal to take a right on Hudson. And that's a crossing for pedestrians.
Yeah, we have been looking closely at this intersection, and we know it's a really difficult and dangerous intersection, especially for pedestrians. We're continuing to evaluate it, look at the design, and I think we'll take those comments into account and hopefully address them when we return early next year.
May I ask a question? Yeah, and let me just finish that and then you can ask the question. For the bump out, if you could just show the Bowery to Baxter picture and zoom in. What's that Bowery to Baxter? No, that Bowery to Baxter, all the way east. Yeah.
They're gonna close, right?
Yeah, but this is, there's one center. Yeah, there it is. I'm sorry. Yes, it's on Mott Street. And you're saying, it's still a pretty big crossing at Elizabeth Street. Is there a way to add some more centered dividers elsewhere on some of these long crossings?
We're also investigating that. Yeah. As a community member said, when there's no left turn and when we see this type of channelization that's potential for a concrete island, we just have to ensure that it's constructible given that there is MTA infrastructure under this part of Canal Street. So that's just part of our analysis. But yeah, we are looking into that.
Okay. I'll go in the room. You need to come up to the front. Quick question, if we're specifically talking about crosswalks, curb extensions, and islands. Awesome.
Segueing into what Janine was just saying, I'm curious, is anything planned revision-wise for 6th Avenue and Canal and West Broadway and Canal? Because as far as I see, I'm a longtime resident, I'm on the street all the time. The West Broadway crossing is the most populated as far as pedestrians go, and I will do anything to avoid crossing at 6th because it's so dangerous. And the only reason that West Broadway and Canal is less dangerous is because there's the turning light. So you don't have to be scared of the turning cars, which is a very important thing, is the turning light. And that's a question.
Yeah, I mean, we're continuing to look at this intersection. the improvements that we're proposing here are this pedestrian island here. We're also looking at simplifying the signal timing at this intersection, dropping the eastbound vehicles along Canal Street down to one lane. We know there's actually very low eastbound volumes on this leg, so we have capacity to implement the cycle lane and have just that one eastbound lane of traffic. This lane of traffic eastbound on Canal and the Light Street traffic could move at the same time if there is the protection of this island, and if we ban the left turn onto West Broadway. That means that vehicles will be held at this intersection for less time, hopefully get less frustrated, hopefully it'll be more streamlined. We're also looking at seeing if we can fit a concrete island here on the west leg. We know this is still a very long crossing, and that might be an additional safety item. We're just still investigating it.
Okay.
Just delaying that light for pedestrians to be able to cross there on the western side of the sidewalk, because you're dealing with light and also Canal, and you're also walking to your back of traffic that's turning quickly from 6th Avenue onto Canal. Going west would be helpful. Give pedestrians more time to get in the crosswalk like you've done so successfully on West Street.
Yeah, I think reassessing the signal timing at this intersection does provide the opportunity to create more time for pedestrians.
Okay, thank you, Amy. I'm going to go to, we have 4 speakers online. 1 minute, it's Sean Sweeney.
We know him.
I know. Sean is a member of community board too, but not on this committee. Sorry, Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, the flyers for the September meetings were put on lampposts on Canal Street. Very inadequate. No one reads those posters. They're cluttered with anyway. But can we get the result? How can we get the results of the survey that goes along with this presentation that you showed last week? That's one question. And again, instead of widening the sidewalks, why don't you just lengthen the time that pedestrians have to cross by lengthening the time of the lights? That seems a much more simple solution. And I wonder if you thought about those preventing left-hand turns on eastbound Canal Street going into Soho, because otherwise they're going to have to go past 6th Avenue, past Broadway, all the way to Center Street, make a left-hand turn north, and then go back on Broome or Prince in order to get to Soho. So you're doubling the amount of travel time, not reducing it. I think it's a really bad mistake. And but how do I get a survey? How do we get?
Actually, will you? Yeah, I'm gonna mute. Sorry, Sean. So we have 2 questions. Would you be able, when you get this information, will you be able to share the detailed survey results with?
Yeah, the survey is still open. So what's presented on screen is preliminary results. You asked to hear where we were at, so we're providing that. But once the survey is closed and we've looked through all the results, that will be part of our report back, and we're taking those comments and revising the proposal based on that.
Got it. But can we get the detailed comments, not just the summary?
There is, now last week there was 600 answers, there's 700 answers.
Great. And I just want to, I think I said this earlier, you don't need a PhD in survey research. I have a friend I was going to call and ask her about this. She's number 2 person at a large foundation. You've probably heard her on the radio, to know that a yes/no response is, this is a complicated survey. We have a matrix here. You have there are some things that are really awesome about this plan. There are some things that people don't like, and there's some things people are unsure about. So to only be able to check one box is the most helpful. So that's my personal comment. And I know you're not going to change the survey now, but it would be helpful to see a little more nuance in terms of the results.
Yeah, there's pros and cons with any any kind of survey we often find if we make surveys too long, then people don't answer them. We also ask for comments, and what you see on screen now are some of these are real comments that people put in the survey, but they're also representative of the types of comments we were seeing. And I've read through every one of the comments, the 600 comments that had come in as of the 24th last month, and we have got some really good detailed feedback. So
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to seeing that. And then since Sean brought it up, for the left turns, what was the analysis that you did on that?
So to start with, we know that, just trying to get to a good slide to discuss this, to start with, we know that left turns in general are dangerous, right? So by eliminating left turns, it just creates a safer condition. We also know that specifically on Canal Street, where there's lots of folks kind of jockeying to get in position, having those turns creates its own type of congestion, right? Where every time there's a lane change, that slows traffic down. There are alternative ways and routes for people to get into Soho. If they're coming from the West Side Highway, if they're coming out of the Hudson Tunnel, they can go, north on West Broadway. When we present again in early next year, we'll provide some routing diagrams to speak through some of those options. We realize that certain folks will have to take Center Street, but other folks will just make different decisions earlier on in their journey to make the most direct route to where they're going.
Okay, no, not yet. We have lots of other people who haven't spoken yet, so I'm gonna.
On this topic, I can't ask a question? Then there's no dialogue.
Okay, please ask your question to him. Then I gotta go to these.
You're saying that there's alternate routes, but there are not. I live there. And they're not.
What's your question?
The question is, what are the routes? You're saying you'll get back to us, but Sean was correct that it is just Center Street and there's nothing else. So what are the routes?
I will answer that. The goal is to avoid Canal Street. And maybe we would need some better signage, because once you get stuck on Canal Street by accident or on purpose, you then are stuck going to Center Street. But if you loop out the Holland Tunnel, you can go north on Hudson Street and turn somewhere, or you can go loop around what says downtown on the sign, but you go up West Broad. It says 6th Avenue, West Broadway, and you go up 6th Avenue, and then you turn on Spring Street or Grant. So, but if you miss those two turns, then you're kind of screwed. So that might be a side mission.
But the point is, if there's only Grand Street and Spring Street to travel east on, those streets are already the tiny one-lane streets. That's all.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to
I just will add briefly, as part of this proposal, we're working with our colleagues at Port Authority to reassess if it's appropriate to re-sign any of the tunnel exits to make them more applicable, easier to understand, in line with this design.
Okay, thank you. Kathy, you've already spoken, so I'm going to let all the other people go first. Chi Luke, 1 minute, please.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The survey done by DOT is a conflict of interest. We
Okay,
need
I'm sorry, you've already spoken. We're going to go to
independent companies.
No. Okay, we're going to go to Christopher Sanders.
Okay, so I like this, I realize that you guys have been at this for many years trying to figure out Canal Street. I'm slightly concerned about some of the pedestrian space, but I do like that there's a crosstown bike lane, because I often find myself getting stuck on Canal Street riding my bike to work. So yeah, so I appreciate that part of it. I think that's great. But yeah, some of the more center, like Chinatown, Canal Street area, especially where all the vendors are. Like on the one hand, I feel like the pedestrian stuff is going to get taken up by the illegal vendors there. So that concerns me, but I'm not going to say it's not needed.
Thank you,
So
Chris. Appreciate it. Is Chi Lok
Yeah, he's saying he's.
he's a different person.
No.
Chi Lok keeps raising, but that's not Kathy Chan, is it? Okay, I'm gonna let, yeah. So Chi Lok, sorry, Chi Lok, why don't you
Yeah.
go?
Hello?
Chi Lok, I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly.
It's unmuted.
Chi will come back to you. Laura Tenenbaum, 1 minute, please.
Hi, everybody. I agree that Canal Street needs traffic calming and increased pedestrian safety measures, such as hardened bulb outs at all crosswalks, daylighting, and so on. But I fear that until we can reduce the amount of vehicular through traffic coming into Canal Street, especially trucks, an expansion of the sidewalks and reduction of lanes will only cause backup and honking, as well as diversion of the traffic to Broome Street, where I live. And by the way, where we had 7 hours of backed up traffic and honking last Tuesday before Thanksgiving, which is typical for holidays. We can't afford more traffic diverted. I'd like to see diversion studies of traffic patterns that are expected after this plan is put in place.
Let me just add on to Laura's questions. Somebody alerted me that I didn't realize this, that Canal Street is a truck route for New York City. So what are the plans to reconcile the Canal Street redesign with the fact that the New York City DOT designates Canal Street as a major truck route?
I mean, the plan takes that into account. When we're looking at each intersection, we look at the turning radius for large trucks and make sure they'll fit. In developing this plan, I mean, one of the reasons there's not a bike lane along all of Canal is we wanted to maintain the amount of vehicle travel lanes that we see that we currently need. And our hope there is that we won't cause diversions onto other streets. Obviously, there are some rerouting, as we've discussed, with the left-hand turn bans, but we are maintaining the vehicle capacity that our traffic model says we need in order, in the places where it says we need them, in order to not make that congestion worse.
Thank you. Chi, third time's the charm. You're unmuted.
Doesn't sound like the mic's working.
Okay, so Susan Fortgang, I did share your written comments with the committee. Please, you have your minute.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, I want to say that it's very important to keep that left turn on Green Street for access to most of Soho. The problem is that Green Street is blocked at Grand because Grand Street is one lane of moving traffic with parking on both sides, including the bike lane. It needs Grand Street between West Broadway and Broadway, 4 blocks, needs to have 2 lanes of moving traffic. Many of us do not ride bikes and rely on goods and services, and the traffic needs to move. It blocks the box on Green. Many cars coming up Green Street want to make a right turn on Grand to get to Little Italy and Chinatown and the Lower East Side and the bridges. And they can't turn because the box is always blocked.
So I just want to clarify, are you suggesting, I'll unmute you to answer this. Are you suggesting that you get rid of a lane of parking on Grand Street to create this space? Is that what you're proposing?
I'm suggesting that you remove fewer than 10 parking spaces on Grand Street between Green and Broadway, and allow the cars coming up Green to make the right turn. And
Thank you.
Also, the bike station on Grand should be moved to.
Okay, so move, okay. You were saying to move it, okay. I know, I don't know how far north or south of Canal Street you go with the analysis, because they're just like water, you know, if you close one thing, it flows somewhere else. How is this factoring into your redesign?
Yeah, I believe we definitely took counts along Grand Street, and the signal timing along Grand Street, my understanding of cycling and micromobility is reassessing the signal timing all along Grand Street as part of their proposal on the upgrade there. I don't know if Preston wants to speak to that at all, but that the traffic analysis of Grand Street and how it affects the Canal Street redesign, we're thinking about that holistically.
Thank you. And I know you said Preston's sort of leading that part of it. Is this all be done at the same time approximately?
The goal is to align implementation of both parts of the project. Well, all three parts of the project.
Okay, Amy, go ahead.
Yeah, I know we're supposed to be talking about pedestrian walkways, but since you brought it up, I actually think Broome should be included, because Canal Street is a highway. It's a major traffic flow between the Manhattan Bridge and the Holland Tunnel. It just is. And Broome is another one. I worked on Broome Street. I know that backup. Broome is another major tunnel. I don't think, if you're looking at through traffic for trucks and cars traveling east to west in Manhattan, in that area, I don't think you can do this without also looking at Broome and seeing what between Broome, Grand, and Canal, how they all interplay together as you make these changes. That's what I'm gonna add. Okay.
We can, I'll make sure that we look back, that when we come to your board again in the new year, that we have information about where we collected the traffic analysis and the extents for that.
Great. And Shirley Secunda?
A question just occurred to me. I'm not sure if we saw the boundaries of the study. Can you tell us what they are? Or do you have a diagram of what the actual boundaries of your study are?
I don't have it in this deck, but I would say it's 5 blocks north and 5 blocks south of Grand approximately. It's very large. It was a large and expensive traffic study. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we can bring that information back when we in the new year.
Because I'm seeing that all these surrounding streets really do get an impact. So it sounds like you did include them in your look at things.
Yeah, we did include a majority of the area showed here, like
It would be handy to see that. The boundaries.
We have one more comment online. Jeffrey Rowland, you have 1 minute. And obviously the chief, if you ever.
I have really, the most improvement that the DOT can make to this area, or specifically Canal Street or anywhere in the local area, is the delayed green that you started using at, let's say, Spring and 6th Avenue, an excellent example of where it works. Having a delayed green allows the bulk of the pedestrians that have been standing and waiting to cross to move across before any traffic can turn. And by the time they finish, the traffic turns and moves quickly. I think that is a significant improvement. I think bump outs are a good idea. And I have a question only about Was Little Sixth Avenue discussed at all? Because I was wondering what exactly that's on that plan, but I don't no mention of what it is.
Yeah, so this shows all the kind of other street improvements that we're considering in this area. Public Realm is working with the Hudson Square bid to look at improvements on Sixth Avenue. So we just wanted to flag that that project is kind of not exactly part of this, but we just wanted to flag that it's in design and we can present at a different time.
There's no progress on that, in other words.
Well, yeah, that's separate with, the bid had some public sessions recently, so, I think, that's, I can follow up with you on that. I don't know if they're gonna have more, Jeffrey, but the bid did have some stuff, public sessions on that recently. Okay, the only thing we haven't, and if Chi Lok eventually is able to talk, we'll take him whenever he can. We haven't really fully talked about bikes. We talked a little bit because Dan jumped in there. So right now, I guess that, a cyclist, a couple things that aren't taken into account in this is, right now, there's, in terms of a safe and connected bike network, Washington Street going south, dead ends into Canal, and Washington Street going north, dead ends into Canal. There's a great and very quiet bike lane on Washington Street. But then if you want to continue south to Tribeca, you have no choice but to at least bike on Canal Street for a block or two so you can get to a southbound street. So we'd like to figure out a way to connect that. And then you do have the short bike lane on Canal Street, but it's a death ride on 7th Avenue South connecting into it. And what else am I missing in terms of committee members, in terms of bike safety?
I think you just nailed it, which is Varick. You can't, there's no way to go south, except if you're far west on Washington. And there's a lot of complaints because you have a super sidewalk there, you don't have a lot of activity. That's why Darlene always complains about cyclists on the sidewalk, but you have this really wide sidewalk and you have no space for the delivery men who are actually delivering south on Varick, where there's an extended granite bike path south of Canal. There's nothing to get you there. I was there yesterday riding it. It's impossible at any time of day.
Well, it's possible, you just might die.
And it's a heavy truck area too. And we're talking about to the left, south of the Holland Tunnel entrance. So they're moving really fast at that point too. So it might be something to think about losing a little sidewalk to add a protected bike lane, which is really popular amongst delivery cyclists.
You're speaking about this.
But it hits Canal, but it's holistically, it kind of falls in the same picture as what Janine was saying. Like for instance, we're talking about Little Sixth Avenue. There's no way to get like one of the most popular places in our neighborhood is Trader Joe's. There's no way to get south from Trader Joe's.
Preston, do you want to speak to any of those comments, or we can get back to the board at a later time?
Yeah, I mean, I can. I don't have as much on the west part of Canal Street, but I know that there's been some comments about Grand Street that I can address. If I mean, we did have the public engagement group reached out to businesses on Grand Street and made a lot of observations. And we also have planners that are out there making observations. And one of the things that they're seeing is, along with reaching out to merchants and talking to about their loading needs and delivery needs, and just also noticing that there is this existing two-way traffic on the bike lane. And our goal of providing sort of a legal way of traveling both ways to make the street more predictable, so more understandable and safer for people crossing the street, and sort of understanding that there might legally be a bike coming from the opposite direction. To go to some of the questions about the data and modeling. And so we have just received some of the some counts from Grand Street. We have automated counts that will count all the, all the vehicles, the turns, and it helps us optimize the signals, sort of make the traffic work as well as we can, and kind of look what, the best way to design the street. We also look at other types of modeling that shows where people are coming from and where people are going to. And so we're looking at all this data as we are developing plans for any Grand Street bicycle improvements or pedestrian improvements.
Thank you. I just want to, I pulled up, this is actually relatively tame for Varick and Canal.
This is also old because the cars are always on the unprotected bike area. Now, if you remove the parking and you made it protected, then that would be.
Yeah. So that steam thing isn't there anymore,
No.
right? So now that the steam thing isn't there, there's cars there. And so actually that's a pseudo bike protector temporarily. But that's gone now. But we encourage you to actually walk over there and take a look at it.
Yeah, that's something that we'd like to improve.
Yeah, okay. Did you have a comment on the bike?
Yeah.
Okay, quick comment on the bike, 1 minute.
Okay, I live on Grand Street. I've been hit by the bike. And also one of our Chinese residents has been killed by a bike. That's why we were pushing for the Priscilla law one time. And we hope
Pushing for what?
Priscilla law.
Oh, the Priscilla.
Her name is Priscilla.
Yes.
And I live right on Grand Street. And one day I wake up, I see all the bike lane and the big city bike station. And now they are trying to put the opposite side, another lane. I think it's a little bit dangerous for us. And I hope they will not do it on our side. I don't know about Grand Street on the other side, maybe Tribeca. There's a lot of senior people living in Chinatown. So I appreciate they will reconsider. Okay. I don't want to be hit again. I'm a biker, but unfortunately, the people don't not licensed, they don't follow, they go anywhere. So I appreciate.
Thank you.
And no more bike lanes too on that part of Canal Street.
Do we have any more comments or questions on this plan? Okay, I'm gonna go first to Rocio, and then whoever's on deck, come up here. Rocio,
I'm gonna time
Can you tell us what is the budget allocated to whitening the sidewalks? And if they just remove the vendors, illegal and legal vendors, and the storefronts that are encroaching onto the sidewalk, I think it would be probably less expensive to put enforcement instead of cement and concrete.
So this is a street improvement project. It's doesn't have separate funding. It's part of the operational funding of DOT. So it's tricky to pass out the costs. If this was to be built out as a capital project, then the cost would be delineated and publicly available. It's a relatively cheap to put paint on the ground. And sorry, and to your point about removing sidewalk vending, I think I spoke to this earlier. Currently, the sidewalks along Canal Street, even if all the vending was absent, legal and illegal vending wouldn't meet the pedestrian mobility plan recommended widths for sidewalks. So with or without vending, there's still subpar pedestrian infrastructure for this type of neighborhood with these types of transit connections and visitors.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Pete Davies because he hasn't spoken yet.
He has 1 minute.
You have 1 minute, Pete?
Yeah, thank you. My main question is this project was put forward as part of the Soho NoHo rezoning, one of the commitments from the city to study Canal Street. That was part of a larger plan to also study Broadway. Could you tell us what is the plan for the Broadway horse project, how that ties into the Canal Street project, and when folks can expect that the Broadway project will commence, because it hasn't started yet, even though it was promised to the community 5 years ago. Thank you.
I can start. I think our intention here was to work out what our plan is on Canal first, because it's a lot more complex. And I think based on what we implement on Canal, we would, explore possibilities for Broadway. And certainly if there are particular issues that we can address sooner on Broadway, we're happy to talk about those.
Okay, if I could just follow up on that. So the traffic study that Amy mentioned, the very expensive traffic study that goes 5 blocks north, 5 blocks south, none of that traffic study had anything to do with Broadway?
Amy, could you, but I don't know what was in the scope of that, but I think in terms of any interventions we do on Broadway, we would do that after Canal Street.
Okay.
Yeah, jumping in just so agree with everything Danielle said. And the study for Canal took about 3 years. We would expect the analysis for Broadway, because it's much less complicated, to take less time. We did include counts on Broadway, but it's not comprehensive, right? So in the same way that we did like 5 blocks to the north and 5 blocks to the south of Canal, we would want to do a couple blocks to the east and a couple blocks to the west of Broadway as we look at the entire corridor and assess how it's being used.
Okay, thank you. And one final question, was that traffic study done prior to or after congestion pricing went into effect?
It was completed prior to congestion pricing, but we took some spot counts at certain locations in order to compare what post-congestion pricing, the effect it was having. So we have data from both pre and post-congestion pricing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to have a Laura, I'm going to give you 30 seconds for everybody who's going again. And that's, sorry. Laura, your question, 30 seconds.
30 seconds. I want to hit things that I haven't been. Elizabeth Street. How can you assure us there's not going to be bottlenecking there as it goes from four lanes to 2 on each side? That's question 1. And I just think the plan could use more strategic placing of bollards and appropriate signal lights. Is that 30 seconds? I have more to say, but that's it.
Yeah, so as mentioned before, the super sidewalks are taking over the space of the rush hour reg lane. So during the day, those don't function as a travel lane, and frankly, from what I've seen, they don't function as great as a rush hour reg lane because you have vehicles parked in them already. Yeah, so we're dealing where this proposal is based on the vehicle volumes that we see with 2 travel lanes in each direction as it is currently, including those left turn lanes in Elizabeth and Mott.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to 30 seconds and then you can come to the chair.
Just to reiterate a couple of things, I think that
new questions, let's not reiterate. I'll get you 30 seconds still. All right.
I haven't even said anything
I
yet.
know. Okay, go ahead.
I'm glad that Broome Street was brought up, because I think to not count Broome Street into the big picture is a mistake. We're looking at Grand Street going east. We have to consider Broome Street going west. And the trucks. That's my 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. And you were good. Awesome.
Can you unmute Chi?
Chi has been unmuted the whole time.
Yeah.
So if he.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. I work in Chinatown for over 40 years. And the reduction of the traffic lanes, as well as the expansion of the sidewalk, is ill-advised. Like many people, business owners said, it's going to kill all the business. And the unintended consequences will be thousands of people, many seniors, and many with limited English-speaking individuals will be losing their jobs. And it will be very hard for them to make a living any further outside of Chinatown. Thank you for your attention.
And thank you for your patience with the tech. Okay.
Just real quick. So your assumption, Amy, your assumption that the pedestrian traffic is not adequate without illegal criminals and or the non-enforcement of the store owners, it's wrong. Your assumption is wrong because that never happens. You're never able to study that because that's always happening. I'm always on Canal Street. I don't just do a study for like a few days and then go back somewhere else where you live. I'm always on Canal Street. So your assumption is incorrect.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just say that that's based on the current sidewalk widths and the designated widths in the pedestrian mobility plan.
But you can't study it if it's not clear. If the store owners are not in compliance. My store is in compliance. I have nothing in front of my store. I have a clear pathway. But all along Canal Street, there's illegal activities constantly, weed smoking, drugs.
Okay.
Yeah. The agency has recommendations based on pedestrian volumes on corridors citywide, and based on the pedestrian volumes on this corridor, this constitutes one that would warrant a greater width. So I think it's not just an analysis of this particular corridor, it's our kind of general approach to corridors.
Let's remove the vending and then study it.
Okay.
How about that?
Okay. I have, Shirley has a question, and we're gonna go to Shirley, and then you can come here. Shirley, Secunda?
Right. Yeah, the lady that said trucks, and I think she got to a very major point, which seems to be, again, for years and years, the large trucks that really slow down the traffic on the street. And one question is, did you analyze both the through truck traffic and the local deliveries? And how did you separate out how to handle them? In other words, particularly the through truck traffic, I gather, really slows up the movement of the traffic. And with the smaller amount of lanes, you'd really want to find methods to rush it along. And I just wondered if you had been coming up with anything and how you studied it.
The traffic analysis did include vehicle types, so we have that data, yeah.
No, but did you parse out trucks that are just driving through to the tunnel to New Jersey versus trucks that are stopping to make local deliveries?
We have cameras looking at those where and which type of trucks are stopping along Canal Street. We also know that in general, quite a low number, around 17% of traffic or vehicles are traveling bridge to tunnel. Actually, a lot of folks are coming out of the tunnel and then going north and south into Manhattan, or going, from north-south Manhattan either to the tunnel or to the bridges. It's a relatively, again, around 17% of traffic is doing that whole through sweep.
Okay, thank you. And then we have one question online, which is, are you using Watt Street for the bike lane because you can get to the Hudson River Park from there?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, it's also a wide enough street that we can accommodate a two-way bike lane with protection as seen in this image. Also, a lot of the streets in the surrounding areas, such as Greenwich Street, are cobble, like bikes would have to pass through a cobble intersection, but other streets, the cobble condition might preclude or delay a functional bike lane.
Okay, thank you. One last question, Tamara?
Oh, that question has comments.
Okay.
Regarding the pedestrian, the crowds, if you don't have the illegal activity there, it was cleaned up when ICE raided, and we have pictures of the sidewalks being clear. So how can you say that it's the pedestrians that are making you do this when the whole situation about the vendors pushing out their things and the illegal activity? Thank you.
I would hate to rely on a nice raid to get us data, but it's an interesting point.
It's true.
Yeah. So. My guess is there will be another one, unfortunately, and I would encourage, if it happens on a weekday, for people who are studying this to check it out. Do we have any more questions from our committee members? Because we're going to have to write a resolution with all this information. Rocio?
I have a question for you. Since I was not at the meeting on Monday, what percentage of the people that spoke in favor of widening the sidewalks versus against widening the sidewalks?
I'd have to go back to the Zoom.
Approximately.
Most were against.
Most were against. The biggest, Janet did a nice summary. I think most people were, the biggest concerns were, look here, people wanted to relieve sidewalk congestion. And they think, and a narrow street will be less speeding was sort of a positive of the sidewalks. The downside was deliveries. Basically it was deliveries, trash, illegal vendors, and ADA accessibility. Those were sort of the cons. I'm just reading through this summary. That was sort of the gist.
Which I read.
Yeah.
But most people were really against widening the sidewalk.
It wasn't most, because there were some people.
Like 60%? That's what I heard. I heard about around 60%. But
yeah, I didn't do any tallying. I was running the meeting, so it was too hard to track. I can go back and look. Amy?
If people who are here, this is unscientific, but I just like your gut feeling. You talk about businesses go out of business, blah, blah, blah. Do you get most of your business from local people and also local people who drive in? Or is it mostly from tourists from outside the area?
Local people, local businesses. We've had to change our businesses over the decades because people used to come locally, like the hardware stores. We used to be one of the 12 electronic stores. There's only one. There's only us.
That's how I remember you.
Yeah.
I just realized.
So we've had to change our business to do more event production and rentals. So we really rely on a lot of mobility. Otherwise, we'd just be out of business.
But this is stuff for local usage.
Yeah.
So you would
like Chanel, like all these, like we're doing something at Top of the Rock on Monday. We're doing all local, all Manhattan centric. Maybe sometimes Brooklyn. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
I have a final question. It's a question. Just as an old-fashioned query into another territory, I know that you're designers for a living, but I just wonder, how much do you consider using manpower to solve this, AKA traffic cops? When Broome Street had the traffic cop for 2 summers in a row, it turned it from cacophony to civilized. And I wonder, are you considering at all using manpower on these dangerous junctures along Canal Street to control traffic?
I will say there's already traffic agents on the West Side Highway, at Hudson Street, and at 6th Ave.
No, at West Broadway, at the junctures where there's pedestrian traffic most populated, not Hudson Street, not the West Side Highway, pedestrian areas.
Thank you. DOT, we don't have traffic agents. We can certainly, make suggestions to PD, but I think a couple of people have mentioned some capacity issues are on enforcement. So I think our intention is to make safety improvements by street design. So there's not necessarily traffic agents required at all times. Okay, thank you. Seeing that there are no more questions, I'm going to move into business session. Everyone is welcome to stay and listen, but it's just community board members who will be discussing at this point. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and thank you for letting me rush you because it is 8:47. So I really appreciate you coming, putting some thought into this, and your commitment to the community. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody from the DOT. Thank you.
Want to say something?
Thanks, folks. I'm going to sign off, but really appreciate your feedback.
Thank you, DOT, because I know
Thank
you guys have
you.
been working overtime on this with all the 3 community boards. We will be doing a resolution, and it'll be, our full board meeting is going
December 18th.
Thank you. Thursday, December 18th, and we'll have a resolution which we will take our recommendations and send them to the DOT, and hopefully they will take that into account with what they get from Community Board 1 and 3, and they'll come back in January at some point and present to us. Okay. So I'm going to just go around the table. Dan looks like he's ready to talk.
I mean, it just seems like there's a disconnect between what's being proposed and what we're hearing from a lot of residents. And I think that part of that disconnect, guys, you can't talk.
You can go in the hall and talk.
So there's no.
Right. The way it works is the committee meets, and then we discuss and we write a resolution that the committee passes, and the resolution goes to the full board for a vote on December 18th. So it's not a it's not a CB2 resolution until it goes to the full board, and it has to pass the full board with a vote.
So the answer to that is, if you want to speak again, you can sign up to be a speaker on December 18th and come to the full board meeting. So you can let the whole full board know your position at that moment.
And you go onto the website and you register ahead of time to speak at the meeting, okay?
Thank you so much.
And thank you for coming, everyone.
And bring a lot of people that think like you do.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you. Thank you. Okay, Dan.
So, I mean, a lot of the things that DOT is saying has made sense, but it's hard, I think, for people to visualize it, especially with the sidewalks expanding and then retracting when there's traffic, when there's not traffic. I don't think that the visual representation is up to snuff. It's hard for people to visualize it. Conceptually, I get it because I travel it all the time, but I understand why the business owners are really worried. And it's really, the vendors are a problem, and you expand the sidewalk and you're going to have more of these illegal vendors. So without solving that, the community is going to be unhappy with what the presentation is. Creating a thoroughfare that's safe for bikeways makes sense, but we have to see a design with real buildings, with real bike paths in there to show why it's not working here and why it has to work in this space. At the same point, we're hearing over and over again about Broome and Grand, which are heavily trafficked, small blocks, and Broome especially, which is just killed by that Holland Tunnel traffic. What's going to happen to it? That might be a hurdle that DOT may not be able to solve, especially during the construction of this, but it's something that's going to worry the community, and they're going to be very upset by any kind of change. I hear a fear of change. And I also hear a fear of people operating and making things worse, and they could be a lot better if there was enforcement.
Okay. Ben?
I mean, just
You've been
one-
very quiet
just
tonight,
one
and I know
thing
you have a lot of good ideas.
I just want to clarify what area of the plan we're making, or like we're planning on making a resolution on.
We pretty much have just to clarify, CB2 goes from Bowery to the river. So come off the bridge, and once you cross, I guess, halfway through Bowery intersection, you are in Community Board 2. So, and because if you come off the bridge too quickly, you can run into somebody in Community Board 2, I feel like we can comment on the entire swath. Community Board 1 and 3 split the other parts, but Community Board 2 has 100% of this study area.
Include what, like going all the way east, you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
Bowery is our easternmost part. So yes, we have the whole kit and caboodle.
No, but
just north of it. So we aren't going to comment on the Walker Street thing, the Walker Street Plaza, because that's south.
Okay.
But all of the intersections, starting with Bowery,
great.
Elizabeth, Mulberry, Baxter, to Center, Lafayette, and West, are all our intersections.
Cool.
Can I just add that part of me is like, if you get too much into the weeds without, they're going to get more into the weeds in January.
Yeah.
And this is not a detailed thing. I mean,
I
my
think we need to hit on the high points.
recommendation is keep it high level with what we're expecting to see based on the feedback we've received, rather than coming up with actually the solution.
I agree. We just want to share our thoughts, because I think, and I do want to this is kind of what Dan, you were saying. I was trying to pull this up earlier. This is the NYC DOT truck map, and it's the whole city. I shared it in our shared drive, but I basically zoomed in on the map and took a screenshot. So you can see this is Canal Street here, is a thoroughfare, as is Delancey, and it's interesting, Broome and Grand are also truck thoroughfares. I don't have the nomenclature in front of me, but green is bigger than blue. How's that for unprofessional language there? And you can see the Manhattan Bridge coming off here. So the real, this is important to understand how all of these changes impact this truck map. And I guess since I still have you, Kate, are there plans to change this New York City DOT truck route map, or based on the redesign, or is this still going to be a major artery?
Separate from our Canal Street study, we are in the process of updating our truck route. But I would have to get more details on the specifics, unless Danielle or David, if you have anything to add.
The Canal Street will remain a truck route. There are some pretty minor changes in Manhattan. We could send you our recent report that outlines the proposed changes that would then go through a separate rulemaking process, which hasn't started yet. But I can circulate the truck route map just so you could see what's going on. I don't think that Canal Street is affected, but we can take a closer look at what's proposed in there.
Okay, thank you. No, I spoke to all different people in the last week, and that came up. Spoke to the bids, spoke to different residents, and so forth. Shirley?
Yeah, so we don't want to give any solutions for the truck routes. I mean, can we at least encourage DOT to explore solutions for facilitating the movement of large trucks, or even lowering the number, possibly by splitting up the days that certain ones come in? I mean, that's one possibility. If it is a truck route and it's so darn busy, it seems also that if you could get the trucks to move more quickly, then maybe it wouldn't be so unusual or imposing to have fewer lanes. But you still need that access to the trucks. And any way that I would say to just at least ask them to explore the patterns of the trucks and how that can be modified or something like that. What does everybody else think about that?
I mean, I just want to reiterate something we heard even a week ago Monday, is that Canal is not a wide boulevard, like, let's say, Delancey. There's certain things you can't do on Canal. And the question we've heard, and we've heard this over and again, Shirley, when you were chair, is it doesn't help traffic when you create more lanes.
No.
And so it'd be good to have a study say, what is the perfect, since it's not a wide boulevard, you're not able to make it like a Delancey Street. What can you do besides widening a sidewalk makes it even thinner, which makes the traffic move even slower? How can you emphasize the traffic flow and also provide these delivery areas that everyone is concerned about, which I think you need to have, these laybys and whatever you call it, whether it's city, whether it's cars parking on Canal Street, which I don't know if that's really going to help businesses. Honestly, if people from New Jersey find a parking spot there, but what will help them is the deliveries and the ambulances and trucks to deliver, is my point of view.
Yeah, okay, so I mean, there is the separation. There's a lot of through traffic, from what my impression is, that isn't doing deliveries, it's just moving. So
that was the 17%.
There are ways to modify that traffic. I once heard different days for different truck companies or whatever to come in.
It's a good idea.
Top of my head, but there must be other kinds of things like that, where you can at least reduce maybe day by day.
For hours.
Traffic.
I mean, what we studied, for years, Shirley, was the Verrazano toll. People were skipping it to be able to go through Manhattan for no tolls. That doesn't exist anymore. And I think this whole question that you guys are asking is, so it's 17% now. What was it before the toll? So it seems as though that's creeping up and we're seeing more and more trucks just say, what the heck, we're still going to go through Manhattan. But maybe like picking up on what you're saying as a solution is limiting the hours that you can only do your deliveries during certain times. Especially if you're going to go through.
But they used to do, in other places I've heard, they use odd and even numbers or something like that. Like what you're saying, Shirley, you could do odd and even numbers or of the plates. Or something like that.
Well, like 14th Street, you can't go through all of 14th Street driving through it. You have to be able, you have to turn, right? But I know that doesn't work for us because of Broome and Grant, but.
Actually, can I say? Go ahead. That's a comment I want to say. A lot of people were comparing two things I wanted to comment on. Canal Street to 14th Street. I live right by 14th Street. There's no comparison. It is not a major highway with truck routes. There is not a Manhattan Bridge on one end and the Holland Tunnel on the other. I think Canal Street, I can't think of any other, tell me I'm wrong, I'm sure I am, but any other street in Manhattan that is like Canal Street, that is basically a highway that connects east-west, Long Island, Brooklyn, and New Jersey. And I think, I think to me, that's the rub here I'm seeing, is that we've got the local businesses, it's a highway through Manhattan, and we have people who are worried about safety and quality of life. And it's a really, this is a challenge for you guys, right? Because I don't think there's any other street. And really don't compare it to 14th Street. 14th Street.
I didn't, I just said.
No, but at the meeting on Monday night, not you, but I'm guessing that might come up again at our full board meeting, is that it can't, like 14th Street's sleepy now. It's like, it's like we're out in the country, right? And that's never going to happen on Canal Street. The other thing no, it really is. And the other thing I would say is, about the width of the sidewalks, just internally, I don't have a solution for this and I don't have a recommendation, but we've heard a lot of, I understand there's a rule or whatever that says they must be this wide because of the number of people on the sidewalks. But what we're hearing from everyone, from people who want, more safer bike lanes, to how do we move the traffic, to safety, is that widening the sidewalks, except in certain places, like Anthony pointed out, may not be the solution. That this is a unique street, going to what I just said, that being a highway. And maybe on this street, we can't go with whatever is in the rule book about how wide the sidewalks be. I'm not suggesting
except the subway stations are. You get out of the subway, a lot of people getting out of the subway on our side, on the CB2 side, on the end of the R. there's no place to go. If it's heavy, if a lot of people are using it. So I actually emphasize, yes, those are areas where you have to have bump outs.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Because people are using it, they're all coming out at the same time, so you're getting all these people on the sidewalk at the same time.
So that would be a
barely
good
pass at 9 a.m. on a Sunday.
Yeah.
That's how, and there weren't a lot of tourists
So
out.
maybe that's
Anthony?
an exception.
Actually, as you mentioned, it's especially worse on Lafayette now.
Yes.
Because they have that blue shed up fixing the elevator.
That's right.
Yeah.
Makes it even worse. There's no place to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, well, another thing I think is that there should be observation sooner than later, and to test to see if they are gonna maybe widen the sidewalk, say do it on one block and see how that works or whatever. And that way, and test it. Don't think of it as anything permanent and see how it's working. That might be another.
Okay. I'm gonna just recap what I've heard unless there's more comments.
What I'm wondering is, I believe these designers are all gung ho and this is what they want to do. They want to push this through in spite of what the community says. I don't even trust that they're really going to take into consideration what the community says. So I'm really hesitant. I'm really worried that this is just an exercise, a futile exercise to make people think that they're really going to do what the community wants. They have their numbers, they have the money that they spent, they're spending a lot of money on this proposal, on the people who are learning and who are doing this program. But at the end of the day, will they really listen? I don't know that they will.
Well, we hope so. That's why we're here tonight.
I understand. That's the
They
point.
said no.
But
I think they're listening.
I think they're listening.
From my experience, DOT listens to us.
it's just like a
They
pilot.
might say no at first.
Have you ever heard a pilot program that starts as a pilot and goes away? I've never have.
Okay.
It always stays around.
Let me recap what the Shirley, did you have another thing to add? Or is your hand up from before?
I do. I'm trying to think of. Come back to me.
I'll come back to you. Just interrupt me. So pedestrian stuff. There's plans to extend the sidewalks, but just on the east side, we've heard a lot of opposition to that. I think there's universal support for better crosswalks and visibility and
Delayed signaling.
And
Concrete islands.
Concrete islands, which we have, and maybe adding a few more. And also, at a minimum, if the sidewalks aren't extended, we need major bump outs at intersections.
Subway stops.
At intersections and subway stops. And then in terms of the vehicles, I think we really want to have a better understanding of how deliveries and ride share / ambulette / accessoride drop-offs, because both, I think Janet shared with me, both Soho and Chinatown are, I forget what they're called, but essentially many elderly people live in these neighborhoods.
Naturally occurring retirement.
No, it's not a Newark. It was a different term. So it wasn't a Newark because that's for building, but they're aging neighborhoods. So, going to a side street doesn't work if you're in a wheelchair. You need to go straight in front of things. And then for bikes, we need some real connectivity. We need connectivity on Washington Street. We need connectivity on Varick north of Canal. And I think we need to really rationalize what happens on Grand Street. If you add a two-way bike lane, what do you take away to make that work? And then sort of the broader traffic issues is how does this impact Broome? How does this impact Grand Street? How does it impact West Broadway?
And Broadway too.
And Broadway. And then also just the larger truck network, because, and then we'll take a look at the DOT recommendations on that, because that will impact that. Let me just go back through Janet's list of all the different things.
Shirley's hand.
Shirley's.
Enforcement.
Enforcement, yes, thank you. And so we also, I know one of the follow-up items on DOT's end was about emergency networks. I do want to share, the first precinct has its monthly meeting Monday night, which is the CB2 Christmas holiday party. But, I would encourage, I'm not sure if we can do two places at once, but, we really need to have DOT connect with the 1st and 5th precinct and report back.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, it really has to come agency to agency, because us going there is helpful, but it needs to come from the top.
No, it's DOT that has to coordinate with them.
Did I miss anything in that recap?
That's good.
What were the topics? Let's see, vehicle, yes, intersection. How about the left turns?
It's just that we need to understand how that works better, and
yeah. And there was the mention that the left turn, the DOT person had spoken, and we know this, we've learned this, that left turns are more dangerous. But again, is this the only way to handle them? Can't you do the bulb outs or something of that sort to just slow them down, daylighting, whatever?
We didn't specifically call out Manhattan Bridge. Do we want to?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, and the Manhattan Bridge.
Let's move the bridge.
The Manhattan Bridge, we really want to see physical traffic calming measures. And I'll share the CB3 resolution because I did get that. And we also want to and out off the bridge things to protect pedestrians and cyclists. Because you can have as much signage as you want, but somebody making a drug or alcohol influenced decision or just a poor decision, we need things to protect our community.
I have another thing.
Yeah.
Just a holistic management plan for the sidewalk, because they're simply saying this is the only solution, the widening of the sidewalk. But they didn't talk about how to manage the activity that's going on there. Obviously, enforcement is one way.
What's another way?
I don't know. Maybe they can come up with some managing. How do you do it? How do you manage what's going on there? Well, you get the NYPD obviously involved, but there must be some other ways of doing. Well, you have to study it and decide what you want on that sidewalk and where things go and how they will be organized.
Well, based on
a management plan.
I'm going to show my ignorance. Is there a Canal Street bid?
That's what I was
Chinatown bid, south of Canal, and there's the Soho Broadway initiative that goes up and down Broadway from Houston to Canal. And it's my understanding that the Soho bid is most concerned about enforcement. And I haven't I know Wellington Chen with the Chinatown bid supports this.
I just wondered if they can get more involved with the enforcement. I don't know. But that's not in our
resolution. The bids cannot, no, they're not.
No, I don't want them to do enforcement. I'm just saying.
Okay.
That's a question.
But like the Hudson Square bid has actual, I don't know what they call them exactly. They're not traffic agents, but they are management kind of people that do direct traffic and tell people directions as to where to go. And if that could be followed in the other areas.
Yeah, but the Hudson Square bid funds people to stand at overwhelmed intersections and direct traffic.
Yeah.
I think I've gotten out of a car once and directed traffic. It's just important to know what person takes. Stop.
Well, it could be maybe if like, DOT mentioned, like, they'll eventually figure out some sort of thing with like a partner to maintain
Yeah.
the sidewalk extension. Maybe we could suggest something about including management in whatever agreement or,
Yeah.
and like, we're not sure necessarily what management
Yeah.
officially looks like, but
Kate, could you share when you guys spoke earlier, what was the term for the maintenance agreement? There isn't a bid along the whole way of Canal Street. So can you give us examples of an outside maintenance group that's done stuff that's outside of a bid?
Yeah, so we'll work with bids, other large institutions, and we also work a lot with the Horticulture Society. They maintain a lot of our plaza spaces and plantings as well. And some open streets. They assist with maintenance too.
Okay, yeah, but there isn't, I mean, there's a lot of bids, but there's not a continuous bid. Okay. Okay.
I just want to understand, what was the answer when Jan Lee actually asked a question about who is responsible for maintaining if the sidewalks are in fact expanded, make wider?
Let me make sure I have this correct. When they're just the painted curb, that would be a maintenance agreement with some future corporate entity. But if they were ever actually filled in with concrete, it would be the building owner's responsibility. Is that correct?
To have 25 feet of sidewalk to maintain.
Kate, is that correct?
I believe that's correct. That was what we said earlier in the meeting. But Danielle, David, if you know otherwise, then feel free to interject.
No, that's our understanding. I think, a future capital project might build out some spaces, not all the spaces. I think that would probably be determined once the build out occurs.
So the building owner at the end of the day, the taxpayer.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry, perhaps just to be clear though, there is no capital funding allocated to this project, and should there be at some point in the future, that would be another comprehensive engagement strategy to solicit this same type of feedback as we're going through currently.
Okay. In other parts of the city where you've done super sidewalks, who cleans those? The full capital version of the super sidewalk.
I don't know that we have that. I think that there are some property owners who might have built out wider sidewalks. David, do you know? I think it's a fairly new treatment we've been using, and I think the existing ones are currently in paint and temporary materials.
Okay, got it. So it's really a new concept. Okay, that's helpful to know. Anyone else? I shared with the committee a list of future topics. Kate, don't worry, 3rd Street is on that list. As is 7th Avenue South, the bus network. Given that it's pretty late, I'm just
There's
gonna.
9A too.
9A. If that people do, please just email me ideas that come to you, because it's late and we're tired.
And it's not a reso.
And it's not a reso, exactly. Just, it's for planning purposes. So you're walking down the street, you notice something out of whack, send it.
You take a vote on the Canal Street.
Okay, so on the
I have a
Canal.
question about one of the topics we almost did, but I don't know where it ever went. I don't think it was for our committee. And that was the parking at 281 Lafayette Street at the Gospel Club. Remember the community came?
That was, that is, their
SLA issue.
That's an SLA issue. They're in violation of the SLA thing. So it's not it's not a transportation issue. It's a violation. So it's not our committee, for better or for worse.
And just revisiting old wounds, is why don't we have our ran it past yet on resolutions that were passed and were supposedly funded on Clarkson and Morton and all the other important, we've already written it. It's just sort of like, and it was promised and it was put aside and just nothing's happened.
Kate, I asked you about that. You had an answer on that one. right? I think you had said it was delayed, but why, I don't remember.
This is for the granite bike lane for Clark.
Yeah, on Morton Street, Clarkson Street.
Both Morton Street, off the Esplanade, and Clarkson off the Esplanade.
Right. So our bikes teams have looked at both of those locations, and we have an interest in upgrading the bike facilities there, but at this time, it's a matter of not having the funding, but it's something we're keeping in mind for the future.
All right. I mean, you get a lot of complaints about cyclists riding on sidewalks.
Right.
And you could really alleviate that with a safe passage on the Belgian block streets.
Yeah, and thank you for fixing that divot on Greenwich Avenue. So thank you. And I have one other question, actually. A community report resident apparently had back surgery and is in a motorized wheelchair. So she's noticing all the different places in Soho where there aren't wheelchair accessible ramps. And another member of our committee wasn't able to be here this evening, her mother's in a wheelchair. So how is it, so getting those accessible ramps at the curbs, is that a one by one? Should we be walking our district and pointing out where those are needed? What's the best way to make sure that people who have accessibility issues, whether it's temporary, you're pushing a stroller, or permanent due to a disability and you're in a wheelchair, what's the best way to raise those? Is it intersection by intersection, or is it neighborhood by neighborhood?
You could report specific locations directly to our office, or also by 311. The city is in the process of reconstructing and installing missing pedestrian ramps all over the city. So there are various contracts happening where we're doing pedestrian ramp upgrades with DDC. So when you report it to us, we will inspect it and determine if it's already eventually going to be added or rebuilt, or if we need to add it to the list for the future. That is a really long-term process though. But we can, if you reach out to us with a specific location, we're always happy to look into it.
Okay, and then one last question.
Just on that, we also have a website that shares the status of locations that either have planned construction or are completed. I'll put it in the chat right here so you have it. Sometimes it doesn't have the full picture. Sometimes with these, there are utility or other conflicts that require that the reconstruction be put in a complex contract. Sometimes you have, private developers or utilities building them out as part of their own work. We're typically encouraging external folks to be building these out as they do work. But if the map that we have here doesn't show enough detail, we can always, like Kate said, look into any specific location.
Okay, and just one last thing, because now that I'm chair of the committee, all these emails start coming to me. So I surely think I should used to get these. A lot of these ramps are near sewage drainage. And the way it lines up is it rains and the ramp is flooded with water. And if you have an electric wheelchair, it's a very bad situation. And when DDC is installing missing pedestrian ramps, are they also looking at the drainage, or is this a multi-agency thing that doesn't happen?
Drainage issues can often be addressed by pedestrian ramp construction, but sometimes there are other factors. I think depending on the particular kinds of configurations below ground, sometimes those things can be addressed with resurfacing or other treatments, or we can put those locations on a list for future construction, but it's often location dependent. So, if there are particular ones, we can look at them. Sometimes we need to capitally reconstruct the whole street in order to really see improvements here. So I would suggest just sending those locations of concern, and we can see if there's a shorter term way to address it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our committee, we have to take a vote. As high-level recap, I know, it's okay, I think she agreed. As the high-level recap that I gave, I'll take a stab at writing it up. Do we, we'll make a resolution basically sharing our feedback. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstentions, recusals? All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Kate, David. Really appreciate, and everyone from the public who's still on. And Shirley, I hope you feel better soon. Thank you for sticking out.
I'll be home.
I know.
Good night. Happy holidays.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Danielle. Thank you all.